Can you see by the dawn's early lights what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Home of the brave. Home of the brave.
Ko kore peke hufanga I he ngahi talamalu o e whanua kauma a ngahi talafa apapa katoa pe ko whai atu mi he paenga o e wāke tari whalau I he aho whakakoloa ko eni. Ka lava ki u whakamalumalu atuai, pe a taitare rea ki mautolu ki he paenga o e wāke tari whalau I he aho whakakoloani. Ko au awhapalu whahoko polo kalama atu pe a me he wāke tari whalau Utah ko ia a e paenga. Aia ko e substation neni o ku taku o pehe ko e BYU Provo substation. Pea whiawhia ma upege taitare rea ki motolu I he whiawhi pure lulu katoa pe I he taimi ono ki he hiwa whiawhi I he taimi ko ia a Utah. Pea I hene pehe, lauma upe ko hata puaki a he lava ke tau whekete ngaki I he paenga o he wāke tari whalau I he televisione ka maa whoki ai ata pe moe reo. Ko kore pe ke tau tuku mao ai pe ai whakaapa maalunga taha o lava ke tau mao ki he tamai he wani. Ko hiko ne whakakoloa aki tau tolu ai aho whakakoloa ko eni. I kai ko hale reina tau whai ka koe ofa tae whiriwhiri mānako ai tamai he wani. Whakakoloa aki ki tau tolu pe au tuha mo tau ki tau whai mao ai pe ai whakawhetai o ko maalunga taha pe a whakapapai ai otua mo ofa ki he otua he koia o ku haumi ai a ngahi tāpua ki keresi ka māwhoki a ngahi monu kotoa pe o lava ki tau lawe ai mo tau ngahi whamiri. Whiawhia mao ai pe mo tua whai whatongia o ku o lawei o ku lākoi whiele rei mao ai pe ai ni awhiwhio ai tamatui tau whahau tupo wono ka māwhoki ai tahine kuini na nasipau utuku aho pia moe toinga o e whare o haa moe ofo. Whamalo lau maari ai pia hou eki mo haa matāpure ka māwhoki ai tonga katoa pe o ku mea mai ki he paenga o e wāke tari whalau I he aho whakakoloani. Tai tari whiawhia ki mo tolu pia me ngahi wheitu kotoa pe o ku mo mea mai me ai. Pea tumoa ke tai tari a ki mo tolu e seare iongi pe ka hiri ko ia. Pea tau toki hoko atu me ai. Malo.
In Tonga they say, malo lele. In Fiji they say, pura vinata. In Samoa they say, Talofa lava in New Zealand they say Kia ora oe in Hawaii they say Aloha oe. But in America the happy day Fia ma'upe. In Tonga they say Malolele. In Fiji they say Pura Vinaka. In Samoa they say Talofa lava. In New Zealand they say Kia ora oe. In Hawaii they say Aloha oe. But in America the happy day Fia ma'upe. Awe te vai na Tahiti whakalavetara oe alomi e. Awe te vai na Tahiti whakalavetara oe alomi e. Tahiti nui ia te whare aue taua erea. Mama ia te uri aue pea te urua. Aue oie. Aue la oe au mama e. Aue la oe au mama e.
Whamalo pito ho eki moe haamata pule mo tuku taiminga mo mea mai ke paenga o e wake tali whalau pea fia mao e pe ke taitali fia aki mo tolu mo mea mai me Iulope. Ngai whanua o Iulope tautau te whituga te mo tolu I Itali, France, Austria, kauma foki a Sweden. Pea mo ngai whanua kehe o Iulope he ko mawhola ai Tonga I Iulope. Ki mo tolu ko ia mo mea mai me ngahi motu ko ia o Asia, tali fefia ki mo tolu ki he paenga I wake tali whalau. Pea me Siaina, ki mo tolu ko ia o kumo I Siaina, kauma foki a Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, kai tau te whitka te ki mo tolu o kumo kaumai mi he the land of the rising sun. Pea me Siapani, pea me Hokkaido, ki Honshu, Shikoku, Kaumafoki a Kyushu. Ai au kua I e prefecture ko ia o Fukuoka. Pea mo Okinawa, taitali whewhia ki mo tolu ki he paenga o he wake tali whalau. Ki mo tolu ko ia o kumo mea mai me ngahi state ko ia e nimanoa o Ikare. Taitali whewhia ki mo tolu, pea ko e taimi whaingata a whokieni o e teuteu I ngahi mea tokoni. Ko e hui, ko e kariloa ia o ono poni, whakatahataha e whamiri, ma o mea tokoni, pia whai ai e ngai akonaki, pia moe vahe. Kai ko sāpate e pe. Taitari whiawhia ki mo tolu, o kumo kaumai me ngahi u territories ko ia o Amerika. Hange ko Guam, ko Haamoa, aia ku mawhola ai Tonga I he taumalu I whanua ko ia ai whanuani, pia whamalo kia mo te ki mo tolu ho mo ngawe lahi mo kafa o whai ma ai whanuani. Pea whamalo ai pe ho mo tune in mai ki he paenga o he wake tari whalau ke ngahi ongongo, ngahi polokalama ke he kehe ko os whahoka te me he paenga. Ai lotu ko ia I he pongpongi, kau mai ngahi polokalama whi unu koula ai Tonga. Ngahi polokalama ko ia pia me San Francisco, ai main station ko ia ai paenga. Ngai polokalama ko atu pia me Texas, kaumafo kia Honolulu, pia mo Utani, kaumafo ki ai substation ko ia Horiuti, James Bond po me Lindsay po me mo e ta po me sisters. Taitari whewhia ki mo tolu o kumo mea mai ki he paenga. Mo tolu ko ia mo mea mai me he Talentown Under pe me Australia. Malo ai ngau lahi pe me hena. Malo e tuktaimi ki mo mea mai ki he paenga I wake tari whalau. Mo tolu mo mea mai pe me the land of the long white clouds me Aotearoa. Nusila. Taitari whewhia ki mo tolu. Pea ofrati ke teki mo tolu mi he api ko whatuhamumu, ka mawhoki a olo taane, pea mo lata kofe. Ofrati ke mo ngai whafonga, pea malo I ngā lahi pea mi hena. Tai tari whewhia I pea ki mo tolu mo mea mai me tonga eiki, malo e tu taimi ka mo mea mai ki he paenga, kau mawhoki a ki mo tolu pea mi whisi, kai ke ngalo ki mo tolu mo kau mai mi tahiti, ofrati ke teki mo tolu, Scott, tui tu pou, ofrati ke te koe mo e whamiri, malo I ngā lahi pea mi hena. Ko iai e ho eiki mo e haamata pūre o whiawhia ke taitari reia ki mo tolu ki he paenga e wāke tari whalau. Ka e hangi ka te au ki I tonu ke ki I whao, ke ki I wewei mai a ki mo tolu mo mea mai ki he paenga o e wāke tari whalau. Mo eiki pe mua ka mo share te e tau polokalama. Whamalo ka te ki mo tolu ko e taua koe ni ko kei mo atu tu pou furi vai, o whaatka koe atu. Malo mua I ngā lahi pia mi hena, mo e tu whewhine koe ni, lupe kakao manu, malo I ngā lahi pia mi hena. Paia, lofia taofi, malo I kau mai, tahine o waka, wholoadama a e pūri e tahine o waka. Tahine o waka, whewhia ma upe sio ke ngahi, ola le rei a e ako mo e whenga ho o whanau, mo I ngahi ngāue o kwhai he o hoa, ko te kakala, ko e laioneia o e whunga mana mo ui, malo. Malo e kau mai ki he polokalama, e meri tofu, makahiri ko e production manager whoki a e paenga o e wāke tari whalau, malo e ngāwe lahi pia mi hena. Io, malo e meri, o whātu ki a te koe mosione, Kathleen Manuatu, o whātu ka koe Kathy, pia malo mua a e puke mai a e kau te kula me ngai wheitu uko toa pe. Malo e ngāwe lahi pia mi hena. Koia. Tūmua ke ki I whawa a ki e polokalama a honi. Ke tau ki kolosi he ki he lola halai walu. Pea koe tau pe koe ia e tau whoki mai. Pea lava rewa ke kamata e tau polokalama wahe I e whiawhini. Malo.
Love
Whamalo pito ho eki mo e hamanda pule mo mea mai ke paenga o he wake tari whalau. Ko e proklama ko ia hoa e tolu ko ia e whakahoka atu mi he substation koe ni. Ai oku taku ko e PYU Provo substation e paenga o he wake tari whalau. Oku whiawhia ma ube ke wahe ai ngahi u mea whakaako mo uile rei o kou I loi e aonga ke te koe pia moho o whanau mo e whakamokopuna mo e whakamapuna. Koe le rei ko ia e te kamata aki pe e te whanonga ki hiwa ko ia me lolo halai walu. He ko taimiko o tai ai whasi ko ia o e lolo halai walu pia nau tuu nau tō, pia puna ki loto, pia nau mawhana he koe whatawhata mawhana. Pia hange koe whaalawe ko ia ai mātua ki mua pa taha whasi ko ia o e whoioni o ne pia nau tangut nau tō whakasio mai puru hae me au koko. O whātika te ki mutonu, ho e ki mo e haamata pure, mālo mua a he tuktaimika mō mea mai ki he paenga o he wāke tari whalau I he aho whakakoloa koe ni. Pea I he hoa hono tolu e to e kaumai, mantu I whaku kaumai pe Dr. Halaki, ai ko e pālangia na mga whakataha I he makahoka walu, kau māwhoki ne auato e ne ngāue ke whungawhonua. Pea hoko e tangatako ni ko tare kita ia I he university ko ia o Kansas. Ai oku university lahi ani a Kansas, pea oku iai mo e Kansas Chiefs, ai timi ko ia a NFL, oku ofi au pito ki he university ko e ni. Ka koe wahe he toko taha ko ni hangahi whaunga, e lava e aonga ke te koe pia moho whanau ka mawhoki ai whangamogapuna. Mo e whangamogapuna ka teki mutolu ko ia ko mo mohu tāpuaki I he ngahi tawhaaki ko ia. Ka koloto ke whai ai wahe ko ia o he ahoni, he koe uhi ko tutuku mai ko ia ai ako. Koe harewa ai mea ai whanau oku whai. Oku iheni ai tahine o waka, pea koe tahine o waka, whataha pea mono hoa, Coach Kakala. Oku siau mai upe ke maari e anga e na mui ai hala, kalanga whanonga ko ia e na whanau ki he ako mo ngahi au sia. Pea mi Harvard, pea ngahi university kehe, ke high school, pea o koe ngai whaunga ia ai tahini o waka o kehe pe ia me ko ngai whaunga, kehe pe ia me ngai whaunga a koe. Ka autotonu pe ke wahe ngai mea e aonga whakaloko fua kia tek tau tolu. Pea o ka paurewa e whai ha wahe e ha ni ihi. O ku le rei ma upe ke te sio ki ai na o ku iai ha mea o toi le rei yangi ai, I he mea ko ia o tau whai I api. Pea lava ke toi hiki angi ai a usia ko ia ai whanau. Kai koe mea fo o ia ho eiki mo e haamata pure. He koe hange ko whaavahe ki mua. Koe na wanga mau pēau ia I he mea koe tō pāholo. Ko pēau koe ke hataha ia e toi le reiang he mea koe tō pāholo ia te au. Pea koe mau maala ko tō pēu whai ia mau tā hofi ki he apia ko maalunga ko ia ria hona. O kui ko hauloto. Koe tau ko tō pēu whai mau maala. Pe hanga mau pe he tangata I giu tala mai koe pulo pulai tō ho o pāholo. Pea kau ia I he ngai mea o ku whakangalonga taa. He taimi ko ia o te whai ai ngahi ngā wepehe. Pea koe ne taimiko o ku aloi koe ki he kaho, kau maafo ke kau meire, kiwi. O ku taramahe tangata e ki, o ku kai ki ta tonu ke alu koe ki ai, he o kai te ke ilo koe hono ai. Pea, ngai taimiko wha hu, pe koe hae uhinga upe tangata e ki, o koe kai ke upoto. I hono tō o e kaho, kiwi, kau meire, ka koe taimi ko ia o ku wha utu ai, mo mantu I whukano tō, pea ai keri e luo ke loloto. Pea wai taimi ni mahalo whatonga e tangata iki, o ku kai ke wha loloto ai luo ko ia o ku keri. Pea o si koe hono keri ko loloto, pia ku tōri rewa, whakawhaalahi ko uhi, ke toi hau i whakoi e kere ko ia molu, ke hau ko ia ai uwhi, mo tupu ko ia ai uwhi. Mā u whātonga e he tangata iki, u kai ke fuurerei, ai whainga ngāu i ko ia, pe rewa tangata iki, tā whataha begoi ke pāholo, ko whi unga pe ia, pia ko hono lelei pe ia. Kai ke, ne whai ai ngāu lahi au pito ke whainga, mea koni koe pāholo he kone utu katoa pe mau maala, ta mai mau pe tangata iki, ke hanga o utu mai ha pāholo, ke whai ake umu, ke whawhanga a ke kakai ko ia o kua mai ke utu o e maala. Pea koe rewa ai ki whiawhia ma ke heai, uhi he koe fuafua, mea e koe o ku whai. Pea ko mana tui, ai hao e hongo tangata eiki pea me kāmeri wawao. Pala mo pānisi ula, me kāmeri, o a koe ki mātolu ke hanga ko ia o tō o e kiwi. Pea ko mana tu i he mautu maala i he tau ko ia. Maala foha, keike ngata pe foha e pāholo, to e foha e kaho mo to e lalahi, pea mo e kiwi. Pea na e māka i pe tangata iki a ngai fupuke ko ia o e kiwi. Pea ko a wena e whai hono tu, pea mohani ike. Pea mana tu i whuka ngai lua ko nia o loloto. Keri, pea whakakau au ia ko osito e fo i uwhi, he ko siata ui o hange o ku alohifo ki lao. Pea upehege to ki keri hifo pe, pea whakatoke, tarogo e vai ua ia fo uwhi. Ka aku mama a fo ke tangata e ki ia, wha e ne keri, e nau keri na tolu ai kaho. Tarogo uk whanonga mai pe tangata e ki ia ki he motuki ko ia ai fo ukiwi. Kau ia i he mea whakatupu i talahi ke tangata e ki. Pea whaato e ngahi ako nake tangata e ki nei whaapehe he tangata e ki. Kai ke ha mea e whakapiko e sia. E kai ke toi ngalo ia te au. Pea toi whoki pea ki he pāholo o ku molua ngeia, pea lereia ngeia. Kai ke, i he mao ko ia o e whainga whakakau ko ia, ko loto ke o mai rewa ai whakakau ko ni, ke toi māsilangi a hono vahe. I he taimi ko ia i atere, pea o kou ilo i nei kau ki ai e ngahi a piako ko toa pe. Ke taimi form 4, e whai ko ia sivi nuusila, wha o mai mao pe a ngahi u tatau o ngahi sivi ko ia ki mua. Koe ha, kono uinga ke te sio ke anga e whaunga o ngahi whehui, hanga o hono tari ko ia o e whehui ko ia, moe ha a ngahi u concept ko ia, o ku lava ko ia ke te mahinoi, i he whika, sayanisi, inilisi, si o kālafi, pia mo ngahi re soni ke he, nei kauwhaki ai moe u re soni tonga. Ko taha ia ha teu lahi nei whai i atere, hanga he mau tangata eki, whai ako mo e tiuta ko ia ko mawhi makasini, o whalahi ki he whawhonga o e tangata eki ko ni, pia neongo ko ne mama o atu. Ka maa whoki masiu whehoko, ka e taudau te whito, kia sione kaufusi. Hanga he tangata eki ko ni sane kaufusi o siofi ai whi tau e hongo fulu ko ia ki mua, pia ne to'o mai e ngahi u palove ape, ngahi rea tonga, aia koe ne ngawe aki. Pea ne pehe rewa whiunga mo e whi palove ape e te au, whi rea tonga mohono uhinga e ni manoa, ke mauhanga o ako ia mauloto, pia mahinoi. Koe hau koe sivi e nofo mai pe i loto ai. Mo whakatonga e hono mahu inga, hono analaiso ko ia o i ngahi whehui i he sivi. Moeanga o i ngahi whehui, moeanga hono tari. He o pau he kai ke te tari ki taia mahinoi. E he kau whai ako peko ki nau tolu whakatong tonu sivi, tuku kehe ka pau o ku multiple choice. Na e wha multiple choice na whai i atere he kau tamani, tamai na tolu. Ko ne hala be ai A, koe P. Ka hala e P, koe C, Pea ka hala rewa si koe tea. Pea ka pau rewa kua ha I mahina mai rewa koe all of the above. Ka hiri koe koe ke a ha mea pehe I he siwi. Ka ge. Pea mausi o rewa ki hanga o e whehu I koe inilisi, mantu I whuka ngahi New Zealand School Certificate ia o e taimi ko ia. Hai rivingi IUE, University Entrance, na e where a ngahi u sivi na e whai ki mua, pea ko te mea o whai mao ha te kopi, pa te hanga rewa o a ko ia ke mahi no I ke a kita, ai anga o e whehu I, mo e wheitu o kuhu ki ai e whehu I, pea mohono tari. Tau te whito ki he sae nisi pea mo e whika. Pea o kai ke totonu ke whai ha kesi he ngahi u mea koe ni, tuku ke he pe ka pau o kui kaipe ke te hau ha whakakau ki ai. Ka koe mea maarie pea mo e anga hono ako, ki mau tolu ki anga ko ia hono tari o e whehu I ko ia ai au tawanga maheni ki ai ke multiple choice. Katoa o ngai mea ko ia ho e ki mo ha mata pu na hoko ia ko ngai mea o ku aonga ke te ki mau tolu I he taimi ko ia ke teu ko ia ke siwi. Pena e pehen. Na e tuwha mai a ngai mea ko ia I he taimi form tolu. Paka form 3. Uhi ko e osi ko ia a form 3 pe te teu rewa ke form 4. Pea koe taimi ko tu tuku ai ako, ma tu I whoki o kui ke ua ma upe tu tuku ai ako. I he taimi ko ia. Pea koe tu tuku ko a te reo ki kehe ia. Ko tui ku ilo pēnia e Kathleen Manuatu. Ui he u te pehe ki tai koe tu tuku ai ako o ku ikai ki te whaiha ngā ue. Tako o ku ui a he mea koe reo. Pea pehe ki tai koe reo ko te alupo takai holo pē e ngahi maala, io na e maala, na e moe kape, talo, futuna, talo tonga, manioke, kumala, mo ngahi vestapolo ai kolisi. Mo tolu koe na e hanga maheni e whanonga ngai hiva ko ia programa ai kolisi, wai ngai hiva mahari ai. Whikau aki pia mo e vestapolo. Ta goe u kai koe o takai holo na hataha e kai haa. Koe o huo. Pea koe taha whokia o ngai teu, wha hako I ki mautolo he tangata I koe ko palupua, ka pau u te ngāwe mālohi I tua. Pe koe akapulu, ki a teki nau tōna nau akapulu, pe koe ngoue, pe ki uta, te ngāwe mālohi ai pe I loki ako. Ne kai ke mahino, ki a teki mautolo ai anga o yakonaki ai tangata eiki, toki mahino ia, I taimi koe o te aloakea o lahi ai. He koe mao koe ia ai whainga iwi, mo e ngāwe mālohi I a whainga mea pe, e tatau ai pe koe ha, te ngāwe mālohi ai pe. Pea nei hoko ni o le rei ki he teu I koe ia o e CV. Mantu I koe form 3 e nia teu ke form 4, ai a koe haari vingia nei fofua kamata, I he form 4, I a tere nei ui koe form 4 school certificate Uluaki, mo e form 4 school certificate ua. Ka koe whamamafa kou toa ki ai e ku wahe I e ahoni. Koe Oceania ai form 3, mai e ngahi mea peheni ke te teu ke form 4. Pea sai, ko Osia, pea ko lava ia. Koe hanai ai whainga mea o ko lava ke hoko ke tau whanau I he ahoni. Pea ko loto leo ke whai ai wahe ki ai, he o kufu mahu ingain. Pea teu wahe ahono uhinga o kuhanga mau ai pe o ngawe aki ai Khan Academy. Pea kore whamore bega nau tolu ko ia ku wha whehu I kai ke mau hafo I maa e taha ai motu a whai whatongia I hono tuwaki o Khan Academy, halake mamao. Nā pehe ko hanga tuwaki mau pe a Khan Academy, ko hiu mau ai ha aku se niti. Ka ko uhinga e ku wahe ni, he ku mahino ke te au, ahono kamataanga. Ko lere atu I he wafe mani ma, ki he Big Apple, iki mo tolu ko ia te kai ke mo mea i e Big Apple ko New York e ia. Ka ufuafua lereni ki New York e. Ki he whakataha. Pene o whitaulake ai mo e tangata koe ni ko Khan. Kono whakaiku ia. Pea koe wafe mani mani ho iki mo e hamata pore. Ko fuafua lereni ki he Big Apple pe ko New York e ko ia i Amerika. I he taimi koe na mau whakatahai mo e tangata koe ni hanga vahe a ene visione. Pea nau tui ke he visione, pea kou kei tui ke ene visione. Pea whakatawange pe o se vahe koe ni te ke mea i a he visione, pea ke ului ke he visione, he e le rei ki a te koe, le rei ko o whanau mo e whakamoga puna. Tau te whito ki e nau ngahi lava mea mo e tau kei whakaako. I he vahe tangata koe ni na ne pehe, hau a ene o ngā mātu a, pami Pakistan. Na e toko ua, ko ia pia mono ki tua whewhine. Ka nau o mai ko ia ki Amerikani. Na nau nofo i New Jersey, alo mea i ki New York, mo ngai wheitu ke. Pea koe ngāwe e hongo mātu a koe ni na e kai ke nā mauha na lai pepa pe koe degrees pea miha university. Koe uhingaia e nā lere mai ki he whonuani, koe uhi, koe mei koe whounga, kau maa whoki ai uhinga tatau, o ku ke me ai i he whonua o i kare. Pea mai ngai whonua ke he utau whakapae ai. Pea na ngāue ua, ngāue tolu e tangata e ki, koe lahi koia e na ngāue, mei koe tefto i ngāue, koe whakamaa koia o i ngai hotere. Ui ke lava o mau e whoha koe ni, kau mawho ke kaunanga, ai whainga maari e ki o ki he ako. Pea vahe he tangata koe ni, ai taimilahi kai ke sio ke ne tangata e ki, ko hi ko ngāwe tolu. Mo whaka ofa ai whaamiri. Kai ke, whanau nou ai tala noa ne lava tu ai tua whewhine o e tangata koe ni ki Havati. Pea alo e tangata koe ni ki he MIT. Mantui ko MIT ho eiki mo e haamata pure. Ko tahaia o ngā university i loa i Amerika. Kau maafo ki Havati. Mo MIT, kai ke ngata pe Amerikani kai whakamaman lahi. Pea ko lawe i koe whoha koia o te vita akau na i atere pea whakaosi mai ki ria hona mahau nei osi mai pea mei MIT. Nei pe mo kautonga ki mua ai. Ka paurewa o ku aluho o whanau ki MIT ka hange koia ko Harvardi. Hange koe whoha koia Isleri Kakala o e tahine o waka mo Coach Kakala. Pea mahina mai rewa ko na wau nā tolu ke tumutumu o e whekumi whakaako. Pea i he osi ko ia ai tangata ko ni me he MIT, te hei rewa e ne palomesina e whai ki honga mātua, pea ko ne palomesina e pehe te ne hanga o whakatu. Haako. Ke hako ta e totongi ai ai whanau ko toa pe ok nau fie ako. Kai ko Amerikani pe, kako mamani whakakatoa. Pea vahe tangata koe ni he mau whakataha koe ni he wafe mani ma kamata rewa e Khan Academy he wafe mao no. Pea talu e mau ngawe aki e Khan Academy me he wafe mao no ki he tauni o ku kei ngawe aki pe he wafe ua. Ka koe hana e hono uhinga ne mau ulu iai ke he visione koe ni. Ko higo ki tau tolu, ho eiki mo e haamata apure. Ko manatui i he api ne utupu hake ai, pea ko kore mao pe ke u hufanga mao ai pe hingai talamalu e whonua. Ngau aki harea mahinunga fua. Pea u ngau aki ai vahe koe ni i he whakaapa maalunga taha ko mao ke e ku tangata eiki mo e whine eiki. Tangata eiki mi he paintu ua, ka mawho ki u whine eiki me he makahoko walu. Pea koe tangata eiki, ne ngata pese e ne whainga i e kalasi tolu. Ko third grade ia. Pasi i malolo e ne ongo mātua, pe whikau rewa hono whangatao ke te, ke alo atua ia ki uta, mo e taha ono whangatako ua. Pehe tōkua ukai ke sai a ene ako. Pau eke ke tangata iki, talmahe tangata iki, fie alu ia ke ako, kako ene talangofua, ki ano whangatako ua, me whangatu whaafine. Pekai ke ngalo he tangata iki e whahinga mamahi ko ia, pe e taimi ko ia ne maari ai pa mai mau whine iki, pena whakaukau ke whai ha whinga. Pe kai ke fule rei ai whinga, ka koe togoni me ko ia e togoua e whae, ke a tapai ta hewi whanga to angutu, ne lava rewa ke mau sio ke hatu unga e taha, o toi ki le rei ange. Aia koe whahinga a takai eni, o tōlahe o ki tautolu i tonga. Koe taha eni, o ngahi uhinga lalahi, ne whotu ai ai Khan Academy, ke lava o tokoni ki ngai mātua ko ia, ne kai ke si ia urerei e na wako. Pe ne kai ke fu urerei e na wausia. Mo toni ki ha whanau, o kuna uhau mea whainga atakai o ki kai ke iai e poupou, mo tokoni whakaako. He una kehepe. Koe uhinga lahi ano whatu e Khan Academy, koe harewa a hono uhinga o mau ke ngau e ake ai koe Khan Academy ho eiki mo haa mtapuri. Ko loto pe ke uhanga o tuku atuheni live i he ea ke mo mea ki ai. Aia koe manatu i wahe koe ane nai, osi koe e form tolu, ko osi o mai e ngahi u tatau e ngai sivi e ngai tau e nima ki mua, koe uhi ke mau hako, lau, mo whenga i ke ilo a ngai whehu i mo ngai tari, e taimi koe o whoki mai hako ke form 4. Pe aku peheni rewa a ngai ausia te wahe te ngai ausia hen, koe uhi koe whakamooni, mo pauia ki hele rei o e Khan Academy. E taha o ngai ausia na ai reka i he third grade. Pea taimiga ne whoki mai e kalasi na ton whoki e tau fo ou. Man tui whoki tau fo ou o e ako kamata ma o pei ao kosi, peko September i Amerikan. Alot lewa e reka koe ni o challenge a e tesi ko ia ke 4th grade, pea hiki lewa ia ke 5th grade. He wai e ngai polo kalam heni o Khan Academy, hangi ko klawe koe ane nai form tolu, teu ke form 4. Ko ngahi kalasi ko toa pe i he apiako Amerikanien. I he ngahi grade ko toa pe o ku whao ko toa ia i he Khan Academy. O kia e ngahi ure soni ko toa pe, pia o ku iai mwe whanki vitio ai, ke hange peha kau whaiako. Aia au hoko i Khan Academy ho eiki mwe haa matapure. Hange ia ha o takaua kia te koe ke ne toi whai e whakahino hino. Ai rewa ko mea rewa e whai ko supervisor a taatabe. Pei ai pia mwe ngahi u device. Ko uhi ko taimi ko ia o ku ngaua e whanau ke toko taha ai whanau ko toa pe mwe ngahi device. Pero pau kai teke mauha paanga. Ke whakatau ai device ke tō taha katoa pe, o kulawa pe ke whai ai tangi, ki he school district, pe hanga he COVID tahaiwa, o ne hanga o mai e ngahi mea le rei, whikau aki ngahi u device te lava pe o polo, e ngahi u device koe ni, pe au te ai pe ngahi adapter ki he interneti, pe au free. I he whipota noa aki me ngahi u wheitu keke me California, Nevada, Arizona, ka mawho kia Utah mo Hawaii. Te naulawa pe o check out i ngahi device ko ni, ka mawho ke access ko ia ki he interneti. Pea I hene pehe, e lava rewa he whanau, ke nau whai he teu. Hange koe ni, ka bau ko ho o foha o ku 7th grade, teu ke alu ke 8th grade. Lava pe o ne sio ke ngai kalasi kotoa pe o ku ne to'o, o ku nau I hen kotoa pe Khan Academy. Pakolota pe ke tau ki sio ki ai, koe uhinga o ku mahu inga. Hange koe ia ku mo mea ki ai, pea o ku ua mea koe ni. Ka pau te sign up o ku free pay, pau ka ki te sign up o ku free pay. Ko hea nai hano kehe, kono kehe, he koe time ko ke sign up ai te ke lawa rewa control mo ke sio, ke ola ko ia, o e whanki I quiz, mo e whanki I tesi, unau o mai, ki o whanau. Ai rewa ko o whanau te nau lock in pe, ki o akauni o ngawe te ke lawa rewa o mui, pa ke sio ki he mea o mālohinga, mo e mea o ki I totonu ke whakamālohi, a ene a ko mo e mahi no. Ki I puke e fo I whakaukau ko ia, hange o ki I fuoloa ai vahe. Ka lava ke whahoko atu ai rewa ai ki fo I tuaki koe ni, ke teki nau tolu na wanga ofa ke ngau aki e pāinga e wāke tari whalau. Foki mai mo tau fo I whasi pa tau toki hoko atu. Malo.
Koe whanaonongo eni me pot ngā aue puri anga Amerika, kuri toka ngai kina mo ulelei ai kakai. Whakapapau I oku ke malu I aha o whanau mo whamiri he whonga lelei taha teke lava, ai a koe huhu malu I COVID. Ko os ngāhi makehe ai huhu malu I ma ailonga I whanau tau nima ki e tau tahataha. Koe ahoni kua me te tau pe ai mau he COVID e kakai lalahi mo e longa I whanau. Kua whakapapau I whoki koe toko nima kotoa pe o mau he COVID-19, koe toko taha ai koe longa I whanau. E ke lewa ki o toke tā, ha whahinga whehu I whikau aki mo e huhu malu I, pia kumi lewa ha wheitu anga huhu o whitaha ki a koe I e website www.vaccines.gov. Whakapapatu me pot ngāwe puri anga Amerika o kune toka ngai kina e mo uilelei a kakai piko US Department of Health and Human Services.
Ko iai halolo ia ko ngahui pia vilohi, pia mix mei palataisi. Ke whakatauri a ngahi whakaamu whakasino mo ata mai. Ke miri pia ke whakasanisani mo masani mo whakamanifi. Pia ke foto aki ia ke hakatoa ngā aholahi. Pia ke toki ilo ai e mamani, koe loloni ia, koe tāpu aki mei langi. O ua, he he!
Teke ae lolo, kakalatea, ene manongi, whakataru, o kai fiafi, pea le ngangatu, ene to o ngaki a koe moa. Oe manu tau akau, ko e kakala onu kuma anu. Eki aki e wheinga kotone, aho whakasiu moro tere. Ongo mano ki hewe ewe e pau, oe ki e o taone. Whai teu, ai kau whewhine, e kuoruma ki la takope. Pe i hua mai hatau a alo e tiana, oe maha a koro, tangaka e a piko makuho, katoka kala mei lo tunofo. Ralo di e teu oe pare alo, papa anga o manu matao. Ralo di e teu oe pare alo, papa anga o manu matao. Kau ulu whanua aela a, pea hopo a uwhia molata, ke moutu e mo mawava, ai lau manu o tarikana. Kau ulu whanua aela a, pea hopo a uwhia molata, ke moutu e mo mawava, ai lau manu o tarikana. Ka hoa ai nusi palataha, ko e tui mei mata moana. Pe i hua mai hatau a alo e tiana, oe maha a koro, tangata e a piko makuho, katoka kala mei lo tunofo. Lalo ni e teu oe whare alo, papa anga o manu matao. Lalo ni e teu oe whare alo, papa anga o manu matao. Pe i hua mai hatau a alo e tiana, oe maha a koro, tangata e a piko makuho, katoka kala mei lo tunofo. Lalo ni e teu oe whare alo, papa anga o manu matao. Lalo ni e teu oe whare alo, papa anga o manu matao.
Whamalo pita ho eki mo e haamata pule mo tū taimiga mo mea mai ki he pāinga e wāke e tairi whalau. I he aho whakakoloa koe ni, tai tari whiawhia ma oai pēa ki mo tolu, o nā ngalo, mo eki pē kai shea te tau polokalama. Kua haa whaahinga wholoa e nau puri, mo haa whaahinga te kai ke nau kau mai ki he tau polokalama. Ko manatu i he taimi ko ia ne ui he ka aki mo e a kai, ne wako ai ha mea mahu inga, pia o kaike uhanga o whatonga i koe talu ko ia e ku mawahe mai pia me he malau o wailahi, o te kaike to'o e whainga urunganga ko ia, aia o kui koe whakaniuniwa fo ou. Koe haa e whakaniuniwa fo ou, koe eke i hanga tona peka koe ha mea o kaike toe awhe. Koe whakaniuniwa fo ou ia. Ko ki mautolu ko ia mou whia mao e ki mautolu ke mou ilo i ngai whonga ko ia ki alu ki Hawati, ke mea hatupe ki he messenger o eke ki he tahini o waka, ke ne wahe atu. Ka pau oku ia i hano taimi ke wahe atu. Pea oku tui, oku ofa ma o pea tahini o waka, he taimi oku kore tokonia i hataha. Pea ko whia alu ko ia ke MIT, aia ko te vita akau ia, mo tanga te vita akau kua na o whikau atu ke mou eke ati ki ai. He oku te kai ke ngalo ia te vita akau a ngai mea whaka atere. Ko ki nau tolu pena i atere, oku nau hanga ilo i a whainga ngā ue ko ia. Ilo pe ia e Kathleen manu atu. Kai ke hou eiki mo e haamata pure. O kai ki hana no kovi ha te eke hanga tonu ki ha taha. Ko te whi mau tokoni, ki ha lerei, kua au sia e ki nau tolu, ke tala meange ki halanga whanonga. Manatu, ko ki nau tolu ko ia honga mātua pēr mei kāmeri ko ia I wawa a ko I ki mau tolu ki hanga tō ko ia oi kiwi. Teu I hono pula, e anga hono keri, hono luo, pēr mohono tori, whakaheka ko ia e pula. O ko ia hono whainga whaunga, hono whakaheka. Ta koe o koe e whaunga whakaheka, ke hanga ki matai laa. Pe hange rewa koe mea koe ia miho mau motu, me taaki moe a kala I loa ia. Ta kou toki a koe ki mau tolu me he lola halai wanu. Kaike, ho iki moe haa mata pule, ko o sign up koe ia ki hao akauni, koe taluen me he wafe maono o te kaike hack haa taha a Khan Academy. Koe kakai e nia o kui he tumutumu o he mea whaka elektronika me he MIT. Ka paurewa o te set up a te account. Sas, hange ko lau ka ki kaupalangi. Ai be a ngai u mea be ke lava. Ko ne lava rei be pa o to e ai hangai u mea ke talueni e ku account me wafe mao noen. Kaike, manatu I koe taimi koe o ke aia ho akauni, pe haerewa ho whanau, toko tolu, toko whaa, pe hape, hono lahi. Te ke lava rewa mui ai ka pau rewa koe resoni a honi koe whika saia nisi pe koe o sianga pe koe o mea ai ngahi u mea koe o nau iai, pe ke hanga rewa supervisor ki nau tolu. Matu I whuka ngai whae koe, kawa ki mu tolu ia he poto le rei he supervisor. Te kaua e pe moi mātu a tangata ho toi hanga o supervisor. Ka kohono mui koe ia o ngai ngau e whakaako. Pea kohono le rei ia koe ia hate akauni he ukunau. O sia whanki quiz, me whanki I civico o mai, te nau lava rewa tala, ngai eria o ku le rei, ngai eria o tutoni ke tau ki whakare rei iang. Pea kou talatu ke tegi mutolu ko ki nau tolu ko nau mui ke Khan Academy. Pea ku ilo I pe e rinsi po me, ka maafuka James Bond po me, ta po me sisters. Te lawa bego sio ke hoko ai wha poi noa ia hange ia ko hawheitu ke tala api ai whanau. Pe ai pe ha taimi u ton ke whakarelei, te whakarelei I ka te nofo mau pe, koe tāketi mau pe, whakatau mua mau pe ki he laa. Pera paurewa I toi ki tohi fo me he laa, koe mahina. Pera pae toi ki tohi fo me mahina, koe whetu. Pera ka tohi fo ai, ko ki mautolu ko ia I hengai taimi koe. Koe hoko mai ia ai tau mea mo tau whare. Mo mea I pe ki mo tolu, na mo tupa ke koe I tonga iki. Pe koe hape, pe mi he lolo, pe koe foi o ne, pe koe funga whanua, kau maa whoki a toke lau mamao. Koe ai ho iki mo he hamata pule, hangi koe ia kumo mea I heni koe. Ka pau te tau sio heni ki he tau pehepe koe. Whika. Mohanga whakatau ngai I he tainimi ho oiki mo he amta pule. Ai koe kamata ia ai whika pia me whanki kau reka iki alu ki he second grade. Koe second grade koe third grade koe fourth grade. So aloha ke pe ia o a o ki he 8th grade. Pia to ia o e pe ki he 12th grade. Pia ke hangane wa whakatau ngai ai ngahi u mea le rei o ku whakahoko I he Khan Academy. Ha upe ho whanau ke tainimi kono taimi en. O e tuku ke nau sio TV at atape mo Eva at atape. Pe amusia e whanau ia unau ke whai e mea koe Eva. Kaike, pi hangane wa whakatonga I hen koe pre-K en ki he 8th grade. Te nau lava e nau tolu o whai ai ngai umea koe ni uhi koe taimi ko o tau peheu tau alu ke first grade, tau alu be ke third grade. Taimi ko o whai ai ngai u talamu aki ke hanga ko ia hono whai ko ia o he riunga. Mo mana tu I whoki, nā ta wā maheni hono mauloto ko ia o he riunga. Riunga ua tolu whani mana whitu wala hiwanga futa tā taua. Na whaafai ai sivi riunga. Pea o ku mea I pea e ki mautolu na e whaiai e whanki I tā I koe lula I he lolohu I nima koe mamahi atu mo I kala. Pea kai ke toe ngā loia. O hie koe siviri unga u whai he whaiti ko toa pe. Pea o whare pe ia ko hou mai siviri unga he moni te ai au te taitokanga ki ai. Pea koe vevela I pe ai. Koe taimi ko mao e koe te riunga. Pea kai ke te toi hoha akita pe e moni te pe tūsi te pe pure lulu tua pe u whai te tonaki na a moe sāpate. Ka whakatawange pe o kai ke kaua e sāpate koe aho tapu ia o otua. Kaige, mōsio rewa ke third grade o ku iai rewa ai ngahi o mea ki he riunga o mai iai. Mono ngahi rea soni, pia mai ngahi mea pehe. Riunga taha, riunga ua, whai ai peki o lunga. Aia ko hono mahau I ngaho e ki mui hamata pūre. Ko ki nau tolu ko ia, weha mō whanau alu koe ke fourth grade. Ka baude nau review nau tolu, oa na toe si I fo I he tu o ua, pe tu o tolu, ki mua pe a whai ko ia ai foki ki he ako I he wha I tau fo o, ai au ku aokosi pe mo September, ko I taimi ko ia o ku mea toi ho whanau ki he fourth grade. Te nau lava pe nau tolu o tesi, ka nau hiki nau tolu ke fifth grade. O si o tonu ai, pe a whamoni, ano lelei o ngawe aki o Khan Academy. Pea tatau pe prakapau ko alu ke he fourth grade, ke alu ke fifth grade. Me habe a whenga grade ko ia o kuiai e whanau. O kuiai e whanki I rea soni peheni, pea kai ke toi hela koe a hono whai e whanki I rea soni koe ni. He o kuiai pe hono ngā pea wai ngiri, mohanga whatonga I wai whanki I practice. Hangi ko ia o mo mea ki ai. Ai koe ki whehu ia e fitu. Lava rewa osi koe ni hako I ko ia ai riunga, mahino koe ki a te ia, pa taimi rewa ke he whaihano ki sivi. Ke shonge pe o ku mahino au pito. Ai resoni mo riunga, ai koe ua riunga taha. Mo whatonga I aianga o e whanki whahino hino, ai olunga. Pea mohare o whatonga I aianga ko ia o kulava peo te whaiwhanki review. Pea mohono toi whakalahi mai ke lava ki toi mahino au pito a no riunga ua o ha whahinga whika. Hoko rewa a Khan Academy koe platform whakenia ku online, interneti, uhi u aonga ke iai ha interneti a o whamiri, ka maa whoki ai whanau. Pea I hene pehe, e lava rewa ho whanau, koe le reitaha a hono tu o tolu, ka pai u review katoa a ngai u whika ko ia ke kalasi wha. Ka pau kalasi tolu I he osiko ne tauni, hu mai ke kalasi wha. Ka pau e tu o tolu hono review. Ko e ne whoki mai koe ana ki he, ki au kosiko ia pe mo September, ngerewa ko lau ai mātu a goia pe mi atere, ko nau kai pulu rewa nau tolu I he whika. O nā tolu o tesi, hiki rewa whakalaka ia me he fourth grade ki he fifth grade. Seivi ai ho paanga, pia moe tau, pia whakalaka ai a o whanau, whamua puna moe whamaka puna, ko hiko no lerei ko ia hono teu I ki nau tolu, pia me he Khan Academy, pe ko hatoe whainga whaunga, pe e whunga waka koe ku ke mea ai, o kuna whai hanga I tiutai, pe moha tokoni ki he ako. Mea mahu inga au pitoi ni ho e ki moe haa mata pūre, pe au kai ke whi mau ia ki ta tau kei ki tau ai e ngai kalasi koe ni, whi mau peke o mai hanau whanki device, access ke interneti, pe ke mea ai koe whae, pe koe tangata eiki, o supervisor ai. Ke mahino o kuako I whanau. Kei ke ngata pēo no a ko ki nau tolu ke hanga hono whai o riunga, ka ue ai whanki quiz, me whanki test, pia whakarerei iai, o le rei angia e nau ilo. Tō lahi au pito I whanau pēne, hange ko klawe ko ane nai. O siea ko third grade, aloa te ke 4th grade, au le vai a sivi hik whalaka le vai ke 5th grade. Takau toki mahino mai koe reka ia koe ni. Moe mātua koe ni. Koe tu o whae e nau lere a nau tolu hono takai, mui mui. Ngai re soni ko toa pe o ku teu koe ke 4th grade. Kono lere ia ho eki moe hamata pule. Pea mo manatu i mau pe o promote mau pe a lau tohi, mo lau konga, e paenga e wake tarifulau, tau te fito ki he polo kalama koe ni, o ku aonga ai lau konga. Pe o ku kehe mo pe whanau ia koe o ku nau lau konga. Ke mantu i fuko lau konga, o kai ke ngata pe te lau koe e tohi pe alu e te whakakaukau, aia o ku ui koe he kaupālangi koe imagination. Pe te whakakaukau atuai, ke ngai mea ke, ngai whanua ke, o whaikai e tala noa o la kia. Hono wa te lava sio ai ki anga ko ia o e hono whakotu o e se te si. Mono ai o e kalama. Ko e ngai mea rei ak mao ko i hono lau tohi, ko e lau konga. Lau pe e ngai tohi ko ia o ku ihe grade ko ia o e whanau. O ana a 3rd grade hataha pe aure ke lau e 6th grade. Tuke he ka pau fu le rei au pito pia matala e whakakaukau. Ka hono le rei ko ia lau e tohi pe uwhi unga ko ia pia moe grade ko ia whakamānako ke whanau pe kai ke whakatuta ke whanau whakatupu foi. He kone foi pe whanau he lau konga pia e whakatamulu lewa ko le pe hufanga he whakatapu. Pea whakamalumalu atu ai pe i he talamalu e whanua ka e ngau e ke hangahi lea mahinonga fua. Whakatamulu lewa ai lau konga. Pea kai koha mea nia o kwhaingo fua ke to. O toi au pe ke korisi, ka pau nau lava ke korisi, toi whai pe e ngau e whakatamulu ai. O kai koha mea le reifo ke ngau e whakatamulu. Ko iai ho eki moe hamata pure o kou I lo I whakapapau talu me he wafe mao no ahono le rei ke mea atu ke Khan Academy o ngawe akia. Le rei ke o whanau. Le rei ke o whangamokopuna. Pea I he ene pehe ko I uhinga lahia o e polo kalama ai lofa talamatangi. Ke tala ai ngahi masani o ha mea ko uhi ki tau lava o hao me he matangi ko ia o e nofo me he ako te kaike mao ko ia ha tipiloma. Pea te hei me foki me whanki matangi iki ia o e whakapiko piko me kai ko ia ke fuola rerei o e whinga. Ai au kui he kaupālangi ko e mitioka. O we kai ke sai ai mitioka. Ta tonu ma o pe ke tuku a loto whakakaukau mo e iwi ki he ngāwe pea ngāwe toto iwi. Pea I hene pehe, koe ngāwe mālohi ko ia I uta, ngāwe mālohi ai pe I lokiako, ngāwe mālohi ai pe I he whāmiri, ka e tautau te whito ke ngāwe mālohi e ngai whunga waka ko ia o mou mea ai. Pea moe whanua o tau whakapae ai. Pea koe tuku mai whokeni ai ako, taimi rewa ke, ai rewa ai taimi, ki he whanau, ke nau hoko atu. He ko mō mea I pe e taimi ko ia o ku wha taimi ko mō mea toi ki utau. Ilonga pe hala o e sari o te mo e hoosi. Pera pau o se laulau I mahina o kai ke whaha alu e hoosi mo e sari o te ki uta. Kua o si vāo ai ki hala ia. E hanga ko ia o e whotunga o e atamai. I e whao ko ia o ko I ko neurons, ko e taimi ko ia o kai ke hako ai ai whanau ka matarewa ke toe hange o mate atu e whanki I halanga ko ia. Ka taimi ko ia o whamalohi mai pēr lau konga, mo e whanki I ako ko ni he Khan Academy, pēr o ku ka matarewa ke papa, ai halanga whanonga ko ni o re rei ma o pē ai whakakaukau ai whanau. He koe uhinga whukia au tau awe e tau whanau ki he ako. Koe whakatu a merie ki a me au tau I he futerie o e ako. Kono uhinga aia. O kai koe ave pēki ai ke nau PC ai, pe o kai koe ave whanau ki hea kōko hi ke babysitter atu hatahai. Koe ave he wai e whakatuotua ai whamiri, ka inga, mo e whungawaka u ke mea ai ki haola le rei i he kahau. Ke nau lava o tokoni ki hani ike. Koe anga ia o e tonga, tokoni ki hani ike he pe aua eke hato tonga. E ngai mea whakaako, ka maa whoki ai ngai mea whakamui le rei. Aia koe Khan Academy ho eki mo e haamatapure, aia koe whika ia. Pea ka pau pete mo mea peki ai, e lava peki teia te alu ki he inirisi, pa koe tahane ngai mea ka pau te ke hoko ki ai, pa ke tawa koe parents koe, pe koe learners koe, ki whanau, tau pe he pe koe parents. Lava peke ke sign up ai ki ngai umea koe ia, ngau e ake ngai mea ke ke. Pero taimi koe e sign up a hao whanau, e hao kotoa ngai ola o ngai mea kotoa peki ai. Ke ngai whonga koe ia. Aia koe mea tau pehepe u tau. Koe tahainu ngai mea fo ou ko whakatu mai pea e Khan Academy o Naulotonga ngau e whakataha mo University koe ia i Arizona. Ke tuku atu a ngai mea online ki hanga koe hano teuteu i o CV. Mantu i whoki ko Amerikani. O kai ma upe SAT, ACT, mo LSAT. Ko LSAT whoki a teki nau tolu koe u whi alu ki he lao. Ko MCAT ki a teki nau tolu koe u nau whi me at koe ki he medical school. Pea mo ngahi u sivi ke he kehe o kui ai. Mantu i koe ngahi mea koe niu tai totongi. O ku maari e o pito ho tau kāinga. Koe tātu peu tai totongi, pe toi eke me pia peu tai totongi koa pika. Kai ke, mō mea rewa ki he tau pehe koe tau o ke sainisi, mō hanga whakatau ngai. Ko kamata hake ea me he middle school. Alo hake ai pe ke high school. Alo ke ngai teu koe ia o college, biology, koe chemistry, koe physics. Katoa o ngai mea pehe, ngai mea whakakomputa. O kawen he ngai mea le rein he tainimi ai ngai life skills. Ko hiu lava ai whanau sio ke ngai umea whakasosiale, me ngai emotional ai mea ko ia o whahoko kia e palparema ki he mental health. Pea koe rewa e mea mahu inga i ko loto ke vahe ia ai mahu inga ko ia o e mindset. He ko osi a ko i e nia mi he polokalama ko e ni. Fu mahu inga au pito ke mea i ai mindset. He koe ai whahinga nau pehe nau tolu. Hika ki lava he kai peke usai au ia i he whika. Aia ko whainga mindset ia u tatonu koe ki o ai mau. Koe mindset i ko o le rei, ka pau te nau pehe, o ku i kai ke wholoko le rei a e ku whika, ka o ka pau te ke tokoni mai kia te au. Ko tui e toi le rei yang. Koe mindset ia o ku i koe growth mindset. Kai ke, tu ke tuku atu haki fo i tuwaki hen, pia whoki mei matau fo i whasi. Pea tau toki hoko atu.
Siva mai taimi Samoa.
Ho eki mo ka inga tonga i kale. O kuke fie mauna i hao ki ha moa o iloa ko ie vai pe ie ini. Awa. Ko ne pepe ini o kune whakamahino mai ai au iki ai kieni. Pea koe mate lalanga seuke. Hange ia na lalanga i ka misini kako eni. Koe si nima amoa mo peia si ngai fae me i ha moa. O mao hene sais keke i ka ingata pe i he au, ka koe lahi o i kie. Tā mai lewa ki hoko pe toi putu. Pe whakatau hao kie ke laulo tahai ho foi pere i kare. Fika telefoni, valu noa valu, whani mafitu ono wha hiva ono. Valu noa valu, whani mafitu ono wha hiva ono. Koe Lotaki Enterprise ia.
Kai aka ke fofo
United Kingdom of Foa. Pe tau mua ngā aue ke whakaivia ai ngā his family e wāhe ngā Foa. I tau lele iange ai tō ngā whakako. Mo ui haisini hange koe tauhi ngā hi apitolo e maa. O ngā whaekonomika o hange koe whakatupulaki e mau anga ngā aue. O aki ngā aue i whalehanga o kanga. Tai. O mauto e rau kawe i foki ai mahu inga ke iai hapalani ngā aue i hoa koe whalawa anga i whanonga anga o e mo'ui. E tau mo mataha, piki hama ka e vai manawa. Wātolo aki e whakalaka ke tuuloa e ke kai mo inu ai tau tangata mo e tau tangata o e wāhenga Foa. O mauto o pā ke whai o mauto ko ingata e le lei whalu Foa a koe moao e tangata i whanua o Foa. Pato, United Kingdom of Foa.
Moe api ko nuu se ilala ko e matapa ko lako patunga koa te ilau ko hoku mamana ko e tanu pau aku tolanga waka ika he ika i te kinalo ko e misiona ke pakakakato e mate he ika i te kinalo toki whetaulaki aki he kolo Isa e tau tā moulaka ko e whatongia tua lama ko e paleia o ku whaka o tua uo tanu kou nei mua Ele nai te he kohoku whakawheao Te ufua kolosi he kohoku loto Ko hota misiona ko e pau aho O ko e kosi oto whakawale loto Ua o kalipea Fua hapu kolosi Ko itaniti ai pele ngesi Sila i aki eku O whawhaka kalaisi Deria ata ini ma itaniti Isa e tau tā moulaka Ko e whatongia tua lama Ko e paleia o ku whaka o tua Uo tanu kou
Malo pito ho wake mo e hamata pule mo tu taimi ka mo me mai ki he pahenga e wā ke tari whalau. Proklama lofa talamatangi e fiafini ko shio tama ke te tuko taki fo i saute ka teki mo tolu ko hi he ko waweni pe taimi ke kau mai ai mantu i ko e wike uraki ka toa pe pulelulu uraki ka toa pe e mahi nau kau mai ai a ki nau tolu o ku nau i he real estate ko hi ke takoni ka teki tau tolu a ngai mea lahi whikau ake mo real estate. Pea i hene pehe, whawhe i mai ai toko tahaga ni mi he otu kine kina, ke lawa ke kau mai mo ki tau tolu kage. Tuku atuha ki fo i hiwa heni ke uhi ke lawa ke o mai ai whainga lau maari goia utatoni ke tau mao. Kake ngata pe i he life skills ki he whanau ai mahu inga goia o e growth mindset. Ka uhi ko e proklama ko e whikau aki pea mo e real estate. I he hawhi houa, pia ko e hoko koe ai walu e fiafi, houa whaka o si, o na mō mawahe me proklama, e ku fie wahe wahe adoa ia Dr. Halaki, Thomas Halaki, pia me he makahonga walu, ko e anga ia lau e pālanko ni, malo.
he taimi ka kuori taula ai o whaalomiri ve'e hei lala ko haini se nisi vete ki naisi ata mai kua whihi sai pese i tonga si ueri o Pasifiki sai pese i tonga si ueri o Pasifiki.
Whamalo pita ho eki mo e hamata pūre ha mu tuku taiminga mo mea mai ki he paenga e wāke tari whalau i he aho whakakoloa koe ni pia mo tolko tā pē mo i he paenga ni malo pita o piriki tau te oli me he hu whangalupe whakati ki he toroa koe ni o mau nofo i he wheitu o tatau peheni ta county malo mo a e tuku taimi Lucia Louis Thompson, wholoa tā maha o puri, o whaatka koe Lucia, malo e ngau lahi pia mi hena, pia taulua mahanga masiva, malo a pito e kau mai ki he polokalama, se misi unga, malo, ala keita manua pangai, malo a pito e tukutaimiga mo mea mai ki he paenga o e wāke tari whalau. Pia o kua i hono o hinga ko lota ke o mai mau pēa ki nau tolu o kunau i he real estate. Mantu i whaki ka tā whakapaea i he whonuani. Pēa o ku aonga mau pē ke tau lava ke tau wako ko e kongaia o e ako ke mau haki i api. Ke lava ke whai ki ai a he nofo mo e whakapaea i he whonuani. Pēa o paurewa te tau ilo a e whaunga ko ia o kutotonu. Pēa whaunga o ku rerei taha. Ki hono ngawe aki pēa ko tui e aonga lahi au petu ka teki tau tolu. E koe ngahi mea lahi, kai ki tā whahanga o whakatonga i pe iloi, o ku aonga au pito ki he anga ko ia e tau ngawe. Ko e uhinga lahi au whai kiai e wahe wahe i he fo i hoa koe ni, pēa whakatawangi pe e kau mai taua koe ni me he otkine kina, ku ofra pe koe kina utolo ko ia mi he makahoko walu mo o kine kina o kai te ha mea koe mā i kakai koe ni kai ke mahalo sai pe ke ke hu mai e toa koe ni pea tau taitare pe kia i ko hape haki taimi e lava o wahe wahe ka oku kolota ke te foki ki he mea ko ia nei whai kia e wahe wahe ano mahu inga ko ia o e growth mindset pe ko e ha hono uhinga o e whahinga mindset ko ni aia ko e whahinga tuunga whakakau kau pe oku he koe e whakau kau e nihi fo ia pe ki taia he mama o pea ko tui ko e tahaia o inga hei palovea pe tau whanga kui ko e mamalu ko ia a mohuku ta koe ko e mohuku ia oku whaingofua pe a hono e pu ka ko e ne mamalu mai ko ia pe me he shadow ko ia o e la a hangi hafu ngau e lahi ka hiri ko ia ia o kai ko hafu ngau e oku lahi pe peherewa e tau whanga kui hono a ko i ki tau tolu e ngai palovea pe whakatonga ko e mamalu a mohuku. Ai rewa o tatoni ke a ko e tau whanau ke o te nau fo i pe o te gai ke nau wau ki ai. He wai e whanau e ni o ku nau mau e whainga whakau kau ko ia. Pia kui kai ko e whanau pe ho e ki mo e haamata pūre. O ku toi kau ki ai pia mo ki tau tolu ko toa pe he wai taimia o ku tau fo i ki tau tolu i he ngahi ngā ue. Pia pia i hene pehe koe ni uwhenga mai e tokoua koe ni ke connect mai koe taimi koe ia o tau fo i e pe te kai ke tau wau tau tolu ke he fo i ngā ue pia kai rewa ke loko ola le rei ai ngā ue pia ka pau rewa he kai ke ola le rei ai ngā ue pia e mahino mai rewa ia he kai ke fu le rei whenga pea i kaia ko ia pe ka ko nau tolu ko ia e mui mui mai ai Sa ke tau kolosi le wa he ni ki he o tukine kina. Malu, tari fia koe ki he paenga o he wāke tari flau I he fia fini. Kore pe mua ke ha mua o ki tuku mai ha ki pui tua. Ho ongo mā tua. Pea moe ngahi mea pehe pata toki hoko atu. Malo.
Alo apito. Afa, ke whanau mai be?
Ia, te aipe ke te ki I rehola hiange. Malo.
Okay. Fia apito he whenga maare koe ni. Whamalo ke afa ka ma whake kau whanongo mai. Ko hingoa ko malu hampai ko lere mai me tangata iki ko ko re mek malu. Ngawe telefoni he ngai tau lai. Pe me otukini kina ko wharea afa. Me whoke no konferendia mai uiha. Ko whine eiki malo loia ta uaga ko ne hawana me nuku pe mo kolomotua. Ko no for hini so reiki. Laiseni he real estate pa ko me wafe ma fa pe ko waf ma no he o ma le dei. Whanonga mai he tau lai ka koe aho ni whoke tola he apito fa hinga ho tau matakari pe whoke ka hoa moa mo ka provincia ko nau laiseni. Ngai whainga maare le dei ia. Ia ki nau tolu pe mo tau me community
Koia. Koia. Malo pito malu. Koe ko tangata iki whuka le mek malu kai ko ha ki tangata iki si ieni. He koe ngawe lahi nei whai he tangata iki. O ne hanga tonga I he keipolo mo I wairesi. Pea iloa a tangata iki e ngahi whewhalau aki pea mono whakalere I goia a ngahi whawhitu taki. Goia ngawe aki e keipolo. Mo I wairesi. Ko manatu au togoua ki ho o kui. He koe ngai sāpate tala mai ma upe he whae. Whakasio ma upe a malu ko ne ha upe pa ui ki ai. Matuko mau apina e tuu o hanga ki ap mataka. Pea koe lue ma upe a tangata iki ki al koe ki tofoa. Pea ko kui at peke tangata iki pa atikai o lere atikai o talangi tamahe whae ke hao. Hao e tangata iki ko ne hao ko ia. Koe ma umea tokoni. Mo e pōlave mau o sa hau e wha pe nima pe doktuko e pōlave. Ko tala noi ke ngai mea iau. Ko keisi whake taim kia. Ngai mea o ke au kia te whakaukau. He uku te kei ke te tautou alu ki uiha mo whele mea. Ke te mahi noi. Pea talu mea e ko manatu I he talamai he whine e ki ko e tahaini e ngai whamiri ho o kui. E pa mi where mea. He koe mau kui whine koe hao whoki mi where mea mo uiha. Pea ko whiawhia I he whainga maari e koe ni tama e tema. O kua e tonga o kurea whakatonga. Pea mahalo tonu ke kau mai koe ta polo kalama ma upe uhiu ke lava o rea whakatonga le rei. Pea ke mao e tau kei I he real estate. He koe mea mau inga o he real estate. He ta whakapaia koe ni e ngai whanua muri. Kai tuku atu ka koe ke vahe. Koe hana I e uhinga na ake aloi ke he real estate. Koe ha a whainga teu na ake whai o kau ia pea ke mao a ho lai seni koe ke he real estate. Malo.
Ia koe mana na kamata ia koe lai seni. Kako nai pehu mata pure ko sare so sea
Koia.
I sore kini na nau hu he whainga kautaha investment ko education o mago a ho ni nau ko renaras o nau heni pe utane fly a bito pa nau fa alu ke nau ngai meeting I pau au nau fa tala noi ke fix and flip
Koia.
no ngai ko a pi mo fa tau pa ko ngahi kau taha whako ni time ko nau sell education ni kau nau toi ala whako o hanga ko lau nau whatau ngai api I ngai whonga keke tau behebe da tuko whatau mama nau whaine na do e whaui he kau paui ko dealer
Koia.
ka pau ko ha dealer it's a deal o ko mea le rei pau alu ko sio ko he nau workshop pau kind of track be fan ki me nau fai mahina ka te au ko real estate I he tawhaaki me investment side o paanga le rea pito
Koia.
ai o nau hango a koi Pero ngai mea ne uhai ke aku, uhai ke mau te wa ko ene ngai ko risi. Ko ilo be ko hanga University of Utah where now master in real estate. Okay, ta fa ki development. Na ko ngai course ko ne I ka ta ko ni nai. Ai ki fe mau ke te pasi ha pai nga pe de algo ko risi. Ko te mai no I be ki ta ko fu me la ke real estate ya. Me fix and flip wa fa hingo now hall now fa ta ngai apartment ya.
Koia.
Mai ngai fonga ke o si o lewa ke go pe si ko me le dei apito ni mai to ki mo ia go whakau he I he ako ko si o he ngai workshop ai go ta go ni o ma inga ke ha license ni
Koia.
ui ko ma ko me lai ta ha be go o vai pol kalama go multiple listing go MLS for no o kai ke ma ia he public he kakai o pau ke te laiseni ki tai ko no mo ni na ga uhinga lahi na o fenga ke ma laiseni ki o la ke access ki he polokalama ko he polokalama ko ia le o te la vai o fra fo I anga tu a marketi ki fra tau mo ko te iloi pe ko me o te fra tau pe sai pe kai pe te fra tau lahi ki tai ai ko hinga na to ki ko fai ngo fua be e kalasia ma tai mi ko ya ma ki tatau be tai ni ko foi credit mahalo te awa no ko nai kalasi be ya wa ko ki ngai lao ke o de alu ki brizone ka pa de fa fo ngai hata
ko
we ngai me fa lao Utah ni be fo ke fo noani fo no malui ngai me be le le ya pito ka hangwe lau ko to la he fa hinga na ma hango te ma ka te mai he to ta a le le fa fo lo ne lai sen
Koia.
o poto pito he fe me ka kai he fa fo funga I na to no fa ta na wa pi fa ta wa to na wa ko ye ka ma ha ki tai no be ke
Koia malo pito malu ko harewa ho me a koia o fai ka pa wa ta ha un fie ba o tokoni kai ke ngata pe Utani ka ku mai no fuke ni ko lahi ai fetutuku mai pe me Nevada fetutuku mai me Florida fetutuku mai me California ai ka kai to lahi o fratau api hen a te lava o tuku atu ha whainga contact o fika telefoni ke nau tā mai mo ke lava tokoni ka tautolu malo
Iyo, ku fika telefoni ko valu no ataha fitu no aono ki lava pe te lava taipe hen te lava taipe he text ko ni ko valu no ataha fitu no aono fitu hiva ono fitu
koia e rewa ko e kapau ka tau ha mi California ne fema o ke hatokoni fratau api hen ka nau tā peka ko te ke lava o ko fe me au ke specialize ai katak fra mole o vahe mai malo
fe hui lele malo bito fe hui ko ya ko ma ko agent ko to ia ma ko tau ke be ko ma o e au ko han ko lau a tema o ku hege ngata be fa nga I ha to ta ko ka license ko do be ia de na lau pe no do ia fa nga I ha ta ha yo no tu aki tu be fa ta ma api
koia
o si ma o ia ya ko ma ko tau ke ko ta ko la he ko agent o hege na ma na do ka fa aki fa ga investment ke si o ko pe ko property ko ni ko va vendo fra da wa tu ko ha fenga market tu da ye ko ya han fu ko ma mo me ai be ne o pe la he hiki mai o ki kamata ke li di we market di he ngai a hon ye tu pu ngai me ngai me ko nu hoko ana nga kamata be me covid hoko me tu fa pa ang
koia
no be mo ngai supply ki material o lahi alo ngai api ki o lunga
koia
tau ilo ko do pe alu deva be ko inflation he alo ko la fu lahi to ko fenga deva pre anga ko no na hiki na do interest rate ya ku ha o hanga do no ya connect I anga ko o ngai ma anga no
koia
e ko FIFA life ka kai fa fe tu taki ke ka agent ni ka Okay, ai to taha agent, peko real estate agent, peko broker. Ko na ngau na fai na dore ko na fa fo ngai. Oi whakatau mai ha api, peko na whakatau atu. Ka koe maha koe mea mahu inga, ton mahu inga ange taha koe kau loan officer, peko ta whakakai mortgage, peko no. O lahi o tau matakari, whaalahi whetu utaki mai. Ka koe, taimi ko awe koe ki he, koe ta whakakehe, ko loan officer e mihe ngai panke e. Taimi ko awe ho nau ngai information ni ki he kau loan officer, o ku koe lahi taha o i kai ki lava whatau api koe credit, koe anga koe credit e.
Koia.
To ton ke sai score credit e beto ki whasiusio. Koe mea ke he whasiusio e api e whaingo fua pi, ko to kapau whetu takamata. Pe lava piha whainga agent o whafufonga e mea koe ia. Ka maha koe tau kei koe kapau koe sio, tau pehe kapau koe sio ke ka hau. Umahu inga o pito. E kapau koe ni hange kapau koe ni koe tai nimi alo e marketi. O vare, hai whake marketa i tāni tau ilo i pe.
Koia.
Kapau e o vare hange ku hai ngai mea e hoko ki ekonomika slow down e peko. O more hangai ngā au e peko. Kati e ngai mea koe ia. E whainga tā maki e ngai api koe ni i he tai nimi e.
Koia.
Ai mahu inga pe whoke ke kipe ngai mea koe ia. Real estate i o pangi saikolo. E alu pepe a vilo haki. Mahu e.
Ia. Malo e pito malu kena ke lawe ki he mea e taha ko pehe ke tokoni ke mea i he kakai tonga ko tau e pe o ku mea mai ke pahenga o i wā ke tari whalau. Ai inflation. Ko e ha o whakamatala le rei whakatonga e lawa ke mahino ai ke kakai ai ko ha inflation pe ko ha rewa e ne whikau aki pe a moe marketi ko ia koe e ngai u api. Ne? Malo.
Ia. Malo a pito. Ai ko inflation ko no to e whatonga pe na ko tupu ko e koloa, hai. Pea ka pau te tau ko tupu ko e koloa i Amerikani he ngai tau lahi pe tau pehe pe ko tupu no molo. No ton ke me no pehe pese te tolu. E tau ko to pe. Wako ilahi o ke ngau e full time. O whai ko hiki wahe ngau, me hiki hake pe wahe ngau e ke pese te whaake. Ki hange offset i pepe te tamate aki.
Koia.
Pea moe tupu ka e kolo. Ka koe, mea koe ne hoko o life ka kai wiki nau ngau e pe nau nofu nau tumi ngau e o whai de unemployment pe koe ha. Tasi isi e ngai supply. Pea ku lahi lewa demand, ai koe mea whai ekonomika, koe lahi ange koe whia mau. Pe koe demand, koe lahi ange koe whia mau, koe si e koloa. Koe mea rewa hoko wawi au pito e alu e inflation ni, pe koe tupu e koloa. Pe fua whakapeset fuke Amerikani. Ai ko, na fua mai koe ni, he lere mahe tau ko o si o hau koe ni, o peset e valu, point nima. O maalunga au pito ia, ai ka pai whaha ki hiki wahe ngai, peset e tolu, peset e whaha koe ni, o ngahi wahe. Hei kai ke mao e wae ua ia o tupu koe koloa. Whainga tā ia re wae, ai ku tau sia peke ngai api. O ku tau pene, maha koe tau e ua tolu koe ko hiri. Ko alo e peset ia e ngai api e tupu peset e ua fitu, ua valu i utane.
Wow.
Ai ka pau koe wahe ngā heke ke, he whake lawa wahe ngā heke alwa ke peset e ua valu. Koe mea rewa e hoko koe whainga tā ia whahinga ko ia. Kau hae ko whadala noa maane nei, koe lahe ka o mai me tua me hanga ko California, ngai state ko ia. Koe ngai whare whako nau tolu ene ma o lunga nge pia. Koe o mai me Frisco, ko lau miliona ngai. Ai koe nau o mai koe ki he ni te nau pay cash na te ngai api pia. Kai ko down payment la.
Koia.
Koe ke haka mea whainga tā eka nau tolu. Ka kai ko ni unau nofo koe ni utani. Ai ka pai foku me ke whehui koe hae ne hoko e inflation ni ke ne hango ki hanga koe o tu koe ngai api e hange koe mea tau e pure anga e koe na nau whai e wiki mahina ko osi pe hange pe he mahai tu o tolu e pe tu o whahe tau ai te nau hiki na toi interest rate i ake poini nima
Koia.
u whaanga mahina ko haki kuata pe koe nau whenga fo ke tau i ai koloa, ai tupu koe koloa ke oe fu alu valu ke fu vave pe ke alo valu ai nei fai foi hiki mai na ko si foi poini nima o ala ke leva interest rate low ni ai tai nima me yon
Wow.
na tau ma ko tau e ua pe ko tau e ta me ko nga ko tau i point ua poini pe ma ko se te tolo e te no about say the credit ko a honi ku vave a bit en ala ke ono aku pe ko ki asma ia e holo ko pa ke te hange pure anga ia o to hiki ake to poini ma na hiki to tolo he tau ai ka pa te ala to o pe se te valu pe se te hiva ai no ko me e fainga e hoko ko slow down e ko na fe ko tau mo forget pure anga ke slow down e ai fia mau ai ko ha ko ke real estate ni te tau sio ki ai e fu mama fa de ba payment ni pe ko to tong fra mahino ngahino
Wow.
Ko os mahino pe tai ni o pe he ko ki peseti poini ni ma ko to pe hiki e pure anga ai no hange de vai e ia te ke e pesete tahaua o ka fatau api ki tua ai heki ki dau de lama to o qualify ke ko fatau api fo ko max bill algega ka ka ba te ato pre qualify te no ta mai pange o te ke lahi ta te ke lava fatau ko ni makilo ko fa kilo ai ko ni to hiki ha ka poini ni ma o te os out ki dai me foi range ko ya be foi va ai te holo fu ki dai pa ko fu ki ha api e to hi fu ki o te mama ko ke ka ba e slow down o ma o e tau mo e pure anga ke ko na tau mo afu ka na dole ki ngai mea ko to pe ko real estate pe ka ko ngai consumer goods pe ko ngai mea ko no tau fa ngai ai me akai tau sia pe da to he ngai fare kai mo Walmart mo ngai mea ko to ko mi ta po le ki mea ko to pe foi hina ko ia so si pe ka ko ai ko pal pare ma fica o la ke pure anga no fenga e na to ko no fenga ke tau I ai kolo ko inflation ni ene hiki vave ke foki voa ke normal ai foki ke tolu
ko ia
ko ni apeta ni mi lahi a pite tala no ai ko economica ko ni ko ni mo ni ko ke hata he ni fa papa I mo ni ko na wi fia na fe hala ke ni hiki lahi ana he ka tau recession tau do
ko ia
tau tu pe ni mi tau tu pe o fa no be mo sio ko ha ne e hoko
ko ia
ma ina be ke tau I lo be ki ai ke ha ga tau ma te ke ha ke real estate ni ma ngai na pe
ko ia malo pito malu pe ko e anga ho fra matala ko manatu I ho tangata eki pe a tangata eki matamari mari fa tokoni ma ope ke kainga pe a ko tui ko ngai information ma inga au pito ke tuku mai hanga he inflation o we sia fratau api ai rau ka bana ate qualify kita ke 500,000 ko ne hiki ko ki olunga ko holoi forever ke 400,000 pe ko fratonga ngai apia o toi motu ang ta wono ngo full tupu ngai apia ni ko nau ala ke na to ke 400,000
Oia, mama fa tenga he api.
Ai mahalo o mahino o ku totonu ke te ki I taimi hifo pe, frasio pe na ovare ku tō maha monu me langi.
Koe.
Pa te tok fratau rewa ka o ku totonu mahalo koe mea koe na e wha, wahe koe e tema ka maa foki Bobby, te hanga o ai e te ngahi u documents he tainimi ke mau, whenga e crediti ke mau, katoa ngai umea ko ia ko hiko taimi pe koe o te loto I koe ke whatau haki api. Tau te whito ka hai ngai whuke ngai api au foreclose. Me me koe taimi nere ia ka pau o si mau e te mea whakapepa, tax, mo katoa ngai umea ko ia koe tāt koe ka koe, e whai ngofua rewa a ho o ngā ue pe a vave ange. Uhiha pau ke te ke vave ko ia, ki he tila ko ia ha to taha ke ia o smau a vea e ia. Ka koe whika telefoni ko ia o malu ho eiki mo e hamata pule ko e waunoa taha, fitu noa ono, fitu hiva ono fitu. Waunoa taha, fitu noa ono, fitu hiva ono fitu, ka pau kwa iha o ngai whehu I whikau aki mo e real estate, mo investment ko ia ki he real estate, I time go ke mea mai ki utani, pe ko ato ngahi state ke he pe, o lava pe o whai ai tokoni mo e wahe ki ai. Kai tuku atu ai toi beha taki miniti e wha malu, ai taimi ka koe ka me au ke whima au ke toi wahe mai. Pero whawhi adu koe tōua, ke toi mea mau pe i he mahina ka hau, ke ta polo kalama ku hiu ke poto au pito he rea whakatonga. Ke pe kai a koe a be ka toi hiki ai pe ai otu kinikina. Malo.
Malo au pito asa. Whiwha malo bea he mau taimi ke kau he re tioga ni. Mau inga foki ngahi information ni pega hai whamatala ke eria ke niko tau matakari
Koia.
Maha koe ke mea pe ko tau lava pe o tokoni ke koe taimi ko ku maha koe ki toenga miniti koe ni. E taimi ko ku hangena ke ki lava ke foreclosure.
Koia.
Ka pau ku o ku ai ha whaahinga o ku tau pehe alatu koe ni. Well, maha koe ulaki pe te ki lava pe ke mea ko mai ku moni au pito. Koe mau koe documents Koe tau te whito ni ki he credit ki Pe maha ua pe ki ai anga e mauanga ngāwe. Whawhi mau me whuke he kau he pangeia ke tau e ua e ngāwe. Pe mea dai me ni iho wha tuai ki koe puna alo ke ngāwe koe pe no e taimi ia. Ke mau e taimi koe. Pe koe ulaki pe koe credit ke ka pau ku o kovi whewhe ngā e taini me ulawa pe. Ulai pe ngai whaunga ia ku. Pe koe ua pe koe ngāwe. Ka whoki mai ke maha min pe ua ke foreclosure. O whaalahi o tau matakari taimi ku whaahoko e mea koe ia taimi ku slow down e ekonomika. Tau pehe ka pati tau alatu ni ki ai.
Koia.
O slow down ni. O whaalahi e hoha aia o heke ilo pe ko hane o hoko pe ko hane e whai. O wai o lahi apitu e ngai option ni a ki ke lava o ka pau te whia mau ki te save api.
Koia.
Ai hange ko lau ko whika telefoni e na ku. Te lava pe o tokoni au pito atu ki anga koe hono o te hoha a ki te pate kau mahu inga api te taimi. Hange pe koe lau e kau palangi. Time is of the essence,
Koia.
Koe taimi iu te tangtang tu pe ki ta ia o se mahina e tolu. I mahina e ua mahina e tolu pa koe te toki tuha ke he te tōmui koe te totongi te mortgage pe koe no. Ko tōmui e taimi ia he peku, kakapau koe ne asi pe mahina e taha. Te ilo pe o ku whehalaki pe ku kapau more te ngā ue pe mea pe. No te lava pe o tokoni, Pe tu taki mai o ku lava pe o save api ia,
Koia.
Ka lahi api te ngahi mea ke he ngahi option lele ia. Ka oe toki tuku pe koe ke ofi koe ke ne me hao koe pange ko ave pe koe sheriff,
Koia.
Pe te toki haha ki ko tōmui, Ai ko
Koia.
fe tokon beta fa koe ka pai tau ala tu koe ni pe hao koe mea koe ia. Maha koe ia pe afa malo api te mau taimi.
Koia.
Malo atu pe mo tau whanongo mai.
Io, malo bito malu kutui ko e to e foki mai ke ta programa hoko. O to ton ke tano ala ke fo close hai kutui ko wai ngai fo close hai ta ni o ku fainga mari ai ke ma o api. Pe hange ko e me ko ke vai e lava pe ngai programa o save ai api. He ko api fo ko yai ho family mo fa nau fa mo ko puna. He tau whakapaia ko ia i he ngai whanua muri. Pe mahu inga ke mea i he tonga katoa pe ngai whaunga. Kai te ke lawa o mea e ngai whaunga. Ka pahe ke tāno ka nau tolu. O nau mea i ngai whaunga ke wahe ke teki mu tolu.
Koia.
Pe mahu inga au pito au wahe e fia fini. Tōua pa au fia au pito i he siati ke te koe ko siatu ki he whawhonga ho tamai. Ko e siana nei ofa ia tek mau tolo e mau wha asiat ke kei polo mo e wāresi. Sio mai pe tangata e kia i lo i ngai kupesi. Pia mie o te kini ki nā mo e makahalo walu. Ui mai tangata e gige maat ki ofisi. Eke pe ko e whewhe guo mātu a. Pia eke ko hai mea ku fie mau patalate pia whairewa tangata e kia tokoni. Ko ia malo pito toua ai wahe ki he whiawhini o whaiat ke te koe pia moe hoa, moe whanau, ka ta toki whetaulaki ki he mahina hoko. Malo.
Ok, malo bita.
Malo. Hoi ki moe haamata apure ko mutoki mea mai ia ki malu haapai, pia mi he otu kine kina, whikau aki pia moe vahe ko ia o he real estate. Ko kore bege tuat mua haki fo I tuwaki heni, foki mai mata fo I fasi, pia ka heiri ko ia te tau kau mai rewa Dr. Thomas Halaki, pia mi he university ko ia o Kansas. O whaia ngahi vahe o kou I loi, pia I loi e Dr. Halaki e aonga kia te koe mo o whanau mo e whangamangapuna. Malo.
Nukuhiwa. I kai, koe vai nonu ia e tau whangakui o katoa ia ono aho mo no pōni, pe whakasai nisa ahono ngā hui, he e kuinu ngō fua ahono anga, pia taha awhe nimangi au ahono mamana, seuke, pia toi whakaatu I foki mo hono kakala. He ko hono aonga ko tāgi tahi, pia tāgi uta, no ngā ia suka, ngā koe toto, mo toto maolunga, saigi ai arthritis, kauti, pia moe kahi. Pia whakatau pasi ai mafte fua, ata mai, moe iwi lahi. Tai whanaahi ai mo uilelei he ko hono tawi ia. He koe nonu, na tori ia mi Hawaii, Tahiti, Haamoa, pia mo Tonga, pia kuone mawhola I Europe, Asia, pia mo Amerika lahi. Koe nukuhiwa ia pia mo hono ngahi aonga, tā rewa, ke otaha o nukuhiwa, ke he ono walua, ni ma ono wha, fitu nono ataha. Ono walua, ni ma ono wha, fitu nono ataha.
Akau ko hota whanua, whakatapui, koe motu o tonga.
Protect your kids and your family the best way possible with COVID vaccines, which are specially formulated for children 5 to 11. They are now just as likely to get COVID as adults. In fact, 1 in every 5 new COVID cases has been in kids. Ask a health worker if you have any questions and find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. We can do this. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Te whakatapu I huelo oela Ulungi ai si ofani apiko ke piela Eli Michel oelo se hawa Fotu mari mari Hina vei oe ofa Fotu mari mari Hina vei oe ofa Neo wiki mo sali Apine utupu ai O whakalau la toa Ngahi tapu a kifungani Sila I pea whakamau Oi whai hai Ilai sane tolofi Ai rini mo finau Si I whanau Neu o whai Apiko ta whenga manusi o to o whaanga Whakalata pe manongi asi ene o onga Whonu moe moa si o to lau tau ana Aotearoa si o ta whonu atupu anga Si ete whakaamu Tongia e whatongia Wesa mo ka hoa E mai le moe he to o whaanga Whakalata pe manongi Asi ene tohonga Whonu moe moa Si o tō lau tau anga Aotearoa Si o ka whonu atu puanga
Whamalo pita hoe ki moe hamata pule mo tuku taiminga mo mea mai ki he paenga e wāke tariwhalau I he televisione ka mawhoki a reti o. Pea whiawhia pita ke taitaile rei e tōwaka ni me he makawawalu, toki ta Thomas Halaki, kau mai I he mahina katoa pe mo ki tau tolu. Ka e tukumoa ke pehe alakeita manua pangai, ko remik malu na e mari mo popua ko ene kui malu, na e mari mo le sieri na mau kaunga api, he na whaiwhekau hi sa stonga hawa ki loto hapai. Malo au pito alakeita. Nita whanua malo e kau mai ki he polokalama, tamelakai, malo e poupou, pea whamalo ni ki a mere nei te kauwaka kutui halape mi he lolo halai walu, pe oku kau mai mi he Talen Town Anta mi Asleria. Malo apito ai kau mai ki he polokalama mere nei te, pea ofa pēna ke whanong ke hiwa ko ia hookui. Ka kou loto ke whoki heni ai oku ai e whehu I e taha heni, se misi unga, pehe se misi. Pe koe ha ai polokalama koe ni. Se misi unga koe polokalama lofa talamatangi enu atua me he BYU Provo Substation e paenga o he wāke tariwhalau I he televisione pe moere o, pe koe reti o, I he taimitata, pe koe taluen ni kamata mi he wāwhetahani ma, whikau aki pe moe ako, pe moe mo uile rei. Taitari whiawhia koe ki he paenga o he wāke tariwhalau. Ka I he taini mi tau te whoki heni ki he ngahi mea mahu inga whikau aki moe ako. Aia e whai e wahe koe ni e toke tā Thomas Halaki. Pemihi University ko ia Kansas University. Dr. Halaki, tuka te taimi ka koe, whai hau ki I introduction, piko hae mea o ke whai wahe. Uhiga e teu iho o PowerPoint ni. Malo.
Malo, Dr. Paulo. Whiwhiake e whiwhia
Malo e tau mai ahoni, tau kei mākalo pehe ahoni, pea whamalo koe ofa o tuau tau kei mo uiai. Kana e tae o waia koutui fuoloa e tau takaia taitol he wheitu ke. Malo.
Well, I'm happy to be here tonight, and kataki ki lea whakapalangi. I'd like to talk today, this evening, about scholarships, specifically for Pacific Islanders, but just in general, some of this information applies. So, should we get into the discussion tonight?
Yeah, go right ahead. Your PowerPoint is ready.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and go to the first slide with information. So actually, the second slide, I wanted to talk just a little bit about why this subject is important. There was a study that we see here on this slide that came out just at the beginning of the pandemic, titled Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders in Higher Education, A Call to Action. And you see the authors' names there, but they talked a little bit about Pacific Islanders in college and higher education and how they're doing in terms of competing with the rest of the population. And we see in this study from their key findings here that Islanders are attending college at a significantly lower rate than the general population in the U.S. These numbers are only for the U.S., so I don't know how they relate to other countries. Australia was mentioned earlier, and other countries that are listening tonight. But we see here that about 47% of the population of islanders attend college, compared to almost 55% of the general population. And the other thing that is concerning here to me is the second statistic on that bullet point. Roughly half of those did not complete their degree. So within that roughly 4-year period, almost half of this 47% are dropping out and not finishing up their college. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And some of them are financial. And so that's why I want to talk tonight about finding scholarships and how to go about that. So let's go to the next slide if we can, where I want to talk a little bit about, for those people who don't understand how finances work in college, there's a lot of different ways to pay for college. But scholarships are one of those that are really nice, because scholarships and grants are funds that they call them gift aid, which means they don't have to be paid back. So if I'm given a scholarship for, let's say, $1,000 to go to school, then as long as I use that money to support my college education, then I don't have to pay it back to anyone. And that's a really nice thing. The average family in the U.S. to pay for a student of college, and actually this number is a little bit low, I think, $30,000 that is highlighted here on this PowerPoint. This comes from an article from Forbes magazine, and I think that number has increased a little bit. So it's expensive. It's expensive to go to college. It's worth it because it opens up many doors, but it is expensive. So we want to go on and look for ways where we can get these gift aid options, scholarships or grants, and be able to rely on that as much as possible. Student loans are probably the most commonly talked about way to pay for college education. But of course, just like any other loan, student loans have to be paid back. They are at a lower interest rate, but it always costs more money to pay back a loan than borrowed in the first place. So let's look for scholarship opportunities that don't have to be paid back.
Okay.
So on our next slides,
is that including the Pell Grant, right?
The Pell Grant, yeah. Pell Grants are one of the grants. Not talking too much about those tonight, but yes, those are a type of grant or a type of gift aid that does not need to be paid back as well. Those are a very common type of government-funded grant in the U.S. So, and actually on slide number 4, we talked a little bit about what the difference is between scholarships and grants. They, as I mentioned, they both are forms of gift financial aid, but grants typically are awarded based on financial need, and certainly there's a lot of financial need among all populations that are going to college, but I would say certainly many of the islanders, there's a financial need because many of them are first-generation college students. And anytime you're drawing on a population that's a first-generation college student, there's a bit of a financial need typically. On the other hand, scholarships are awarded based on usually merit or some type of an accomplishment of one type or of another. And grants, or rather scholarships, typically come from either universities, nonprofit organizations, or sometimes private companies have scholarships. Grants, on the other hand, are typically coming from the government in some form or another. So that's the difference. So thank you for bringing up the Pell Grants, because that is one thing. Nothing wrong with Pell Grants. It's just not the focus of our conversation tonight. But if you have an opportunity to get Pell Grants, that was one of the few financial aid things that I was able to take advantage of years ago when I was in college. So yeah, nothing wrong with the Pell Grant.
Awesome.
So on the next slide, it talks about the different types of scholarships. There are many different types of scholarships. And I want to take just a few minutes to review some of those types of scholarships that might be available out there. So one of the most common types of scholarships is an academic scholarship. So if a student performs well in high school, gets a good GPA, or they score very well on the entrance exams, that's the ACT or the SAT exams, then they might qualify for an academic scholarship. So one of the things that I remember from my schooling in high school was, prior to high school, all the way up through 8th grade, it didn't matter a whole lot what my grades were like, as long as I passed my classes and got to the next grade. But starting in 9th grade, then they keep track of your GPA or your grade point average, and all of that counts when you go to enter college. And I didn't take that seriously enough in my day, and so my GPA was not very good. But we won't talk about that too much. Do as good as you can in high school, because that will help you.
Yeah. So not to highlight that part, but when you come back from your mission to Tonga, did you see education in a different light? Did you see the things that your father, Dr. Halaki, was trying to get across to you at that point, and you realized, okay, I got to do something different?
I think there was some of that, yes. But I knew even in high school that I really felt like I needed to go on to college, because I knew that would open up many more doors of opportunity for me. I just didn't apply myself very well in high school, and to be honest with you, I was not aware of the number of scholarships that were available when I was in high school. I was a little bit ignorant to that, and if I had known about all the different types of scholarships that were available when I was in high school, maybe I would have taken my high school years a little more seriously. And today there's even more scholarships that are available. So, scholarships are definitely a great thing, and I want to talk about them so that we try to avoid more students that are ignorant like I was. We don't want to have ignorant students out there. I could have taken advantage of a lot more financial aid, like grants and scholarships, if I'd been more aware.
Okay.
So academic scholarships are probably the most common type of scholarship that's available. So again, all the more reason to do as well as you can in high school. But there are several other types of scholarships available, even if you don't do well in high school, or even if you do. We'll talk a little bit more about how to get multiple scholarships too. The second type of scholarship, and probably among many people seems to be the most coveted because it seems very glamorous, is the athletic scholarship. So you can qualify for athletic scholarships if you participate in certain sports. But one caution that I want to put out here is that there's only about 1 to 2% of college students that qualify for athletic scholarships. There are very, very few students that qualify for those athletic scholarships. On the other hand, the Islanders have a very good track record of being excellent athletes. So there is a possibility, but don't put all of your eggs in one basket, right? Or don't count on athletics only or any of these things as the only way that you're going to fund college. You want to use multiple ways to do that.
Yeah, Dr. Halaki, I think I'd like to add here because the landscape for scholarships in terms of athletics has changed. They introduced the NIL, which a lot of students now, they can benefit from their likeness and things like that. Like, for example, BYU. My youngest boy has been beneficial from the Build Bar company. So they came in and those were on full scholarship, and there are those that waiting for scholarships. They just paid everybody that did not have scholarships their full tuition. And all they have to do is share a product from the company in their social network and things like that. So I think it has changed dramatically now. I mean, from last year to this year, and it seems like to be getting out of hand.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That change in NCAA guidelines has really made a difference. It can do two things in my mind. The first thing that it can do is, as you mentioned with your son, those students who are not getting a full scholarship and need some additional funding, they have access to more funding that way. The other thing that it can do is those students who are highlight athletes, the ones that get a lot of attention, then they just increase the amount of funding that they get. So a lot of those students are already on a full ride scholarship, and they just get more and more sponsors. So I see it as a little bit of a double-edged sword. Certainly beneficial to those student athletes that are struggling with financial aid or funding, but just a greater benefit to those who are already getting a lot. And one thing with athletic scholarships, even though there's a lot of them that are full ride scholarships, they pay for all of your tuition, they pay for all of your books and all the other fees. A lot of times they don't necessarily cover housing. I had a student years ago when I was still teaching high school. She excelled in volleyball, and she was able to get she did a couple of things. She first of all got a scholarship, a big scholarship, through the classes that I taught in video production. There was a scholarship that she qualified for and won that was funded by the state, and it paid all of her tuition for 4 years. And then she walked on as a volleyball player, and her first year didn't have a scholarship. But her next year, she got a scholarship. to play on the volleyball team. Well, she still had this other scholarship that she had received that covered all of her tuition. So now she could shift some of the funding that she got so that since all of her tuition was paid for, she took some of the extra money that she had and paid for her rent and paid for transportation and other things like that that were needed to support her college experience, even though they were beyond the tuition. So
that's neat, though.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation, of getting multiple financial aid resources.
Great. So do you want me to, we're still in the same slide?
Yeah, for right now, let's cover one more option that's on this slide, and that is scholarships focused on community service. So, in fact, I am involved, you brought up BYU, I'm involved with a BYU alumni group that provides scholarships to students that is largely based on community service. And just tomorrow night, we'll be having an awards banquet where we will highlight some of those students that won awards because of their community service. And so, this teaches us that volunteering with a different group, if you're actively involved with a church group, that's a great way to get in some volunteer experience. Volunteering in a soup kitchen or a senior center or other groups like that. Can be a mentor through the Boys and Girls Club. There's a lot of different ways that you can volunteer in your community, and all of that community service can qualify you for some scholarships as well.
Wow. Seems like to me that after this we need to maybe tomorrow talk more about that part. I'd like to get more infos on those, and there will be always people asking, what is the scholarship that Dr. Halaki talked about for those who are going to BYU?
So that one is it's the BYU Management Society Scholarship, and the big fundraising event that we will have tomorrow is the Distinguished Utah Gala. And that gala is one of the big fundraising activities that we do to gather the funds to be able to award the scholarships. So it's a non-profit organization, which means we can't make money. We can cover our expenses, but anything that we get, donations or earnings over and above our basic operating costs, we have to find something to do with that. And what we do with that is we give it away as scholarships. And this year we were able to award, I think it was 16 students with scholarships.
Wow. So we definitely need to talk. I'd like to find out more about the group, and who knows, maybe become part of that group that you are in. Since you are so cool.
I don't know if I'm cool. I just am in a situation I need to meet new people. It's a great way to do it.
Thank you, Dr. Halaki, for sharing. Let's pause for a minute here to. I'd like to play one commercial and a song, then we'll come back to the next slide. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Yeah. Thank you.
Siva mai taimi Samoa.
Hoi ki mo ka inga tonga i kale. O kuke fie mauna i hauki ha moa o iloa ko ie vai pe ie ini awa. Ko ne pepe ini o kuni whakamahino mai ai au iki ai kieni pia ko mate lalanga seuke. Hange ia na lalanga ka misini kako eni. Ko si nima amoa mo peia si ngai fae me ha amoa. O mauhene sais keke ingata pe i au kako lahi o kie. Ta mai lewa ki hoko pe to putu. Pe whakatau hao kie ke laulo tahai ho foi pere i kare. Fika telefoni, valu noa valu, whani mafitu ono wha hiva ono. Valu noa valu, whani mafitu ono whahiva ono. Ko e lo taki Enterprise ia.
Whamaloa pito ho eki mo e haamata pūrea mo tukutaiminga mo mea mai ki he paenga e wāke tari whalau pēa i he hoani whatahain mo e traua koni Dr. Tomasi Halaki pēa me he Kansas State University wahe atu ka teki mo tolu ai ngahi scholarship ke he kehe koe ngai scholarship foki oku wahe koe ni ngai whonga ko ia ke ako ta tatongi ha o whanau pa o te tatongi ha tola. Kaige, whakafoke taimi ki a Dr. Halaki. Back to you.
Wow. So we'll pick up with the list that we were going through before the break. So on slide number 6 there, with the types of scholarships. So our next type of scholarship is a diversity scholarship. This is another great one for islanders because they represent a minority group, and Diversity especially in higher education right now is a very hot topic. It's something that's being talked about quite a bit, not only in the higher education circles and universities, but in many employers and workplaces. It's a really important topic right now. And so these schools are looking for ways to diversify their student body. And so it's a great way for Islanders to look for scholarships that have requirements for some type of minority group. And the next one is an essay. There are a lot of groups out there that give scholarships just based on writing an essay. So if you want to sharpen your writing skills and do well there, you might be able to get a scholarship that way. These are groups, often like community service groups. If you're familiar with the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis Club or different service groups like that, they're often the ones that provide scholarships simply based on essays. And then musical talent. This is another area where Islanders have a lot of skill and natural talent. If you're a musician of some type, oftentimes you can audition for these types of scholarships, either in person or through a video recording, whatever the guidelines are for that specific scholarship. Musical talent can get you some scholarship money. And then other unique traits that you might have. Sometimes you can find scholarships that fit there. We talked earlier about the multitude of scholarships that are available. And there's a scholarship out there for just about anything that you do that's unique. There's an example that I ran across here that I share on this slide. It's kind of a silly example, but could be potentially lucrative. The Duct Tape Company that produces duct tape, they have a competition where if you make your prom outfit and go to prom made completely out of duct tape, you can enter a competition and the winners will get up to $10,000. Now, I would say the chances of that, the odds of getting that scholarship are probably pretty slim, but it's an example of some of the creative ways that people award scholarship money to students that are out there. So, let's go on to the next slide, because this slide talks specifically about Asian and Pacific Islander scholarships. Once again, these groups fall into minority groups, and so simply finding a scholarship that is attractive to or targets minority groups can be ones that we want to look for. Always you want to check the eligibility requirements for scholarships. They always have guidelines and requirements, so make sure that you read through those in order to make sure that you fit the requirements that they have. But there are several that focus specifically on Asian students and Pacific Islander students. There's the Asian and Pacific Islander American Scholarship Foundation, and they're an organization focused specifically on those ethnic groups. So you can look for opportunities through them. There's another one that's quite a prestigious scholarship, and that's the Gates Millennium Scholarship Program. This one is a very well-known one, and high dollar awards. The concern that comes with that is that with more prestige, that just means more people are competing to try and get those scholarships. So that's the thing with scholarships is we always have to make sure and to remember that it's never a guaranteed thing, right? It's a bit of a competition, so you're trying to be among the winners in order to get those funding opportunities.
That's great. Everybody should compete for something good, and you gotta put forth the effort. Okay, writing, having somebody editing, or for us Pacific Islanders who need help in grammar, can also make sure that grammatically correct, but also sometimes that I have found that we have to have a native speaker like you, because there are certain way of expressing that native speakers know, and that is the appropriate way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, my next door neighbor in Kansas runs a business that's an editing business, and that's all she does is editing for various types of publications. So there are people that specialize just in that, and that's important. The other thing that's more important, I think, in any type of storytelling, whether it's writing an essay for a scholarship or producing a video or anything like that, is the emotion that's behind that. We need to make sure that we're not shy about sharing the emotions behind what words we're sharing. And sometimes we can get away with being a little less precise in our correct grammar if we have good emotion behind it. That doesn't mean we throw out grammar out the window altogether, but we can have some mistakes excused sometimes if we have strong emotion behind things.
Yeah, great point. And I think as Pacific Islanders, specifically Tongans, we know how to tell a story, and we should be perfecting the way we tell them, so that those who read the scholarships applications or the essays, they'll read that and have an emotional touch and emotional connection, as if like they experienced that themselves. And the likelihood of awarding you that scholarships in my $15,000, $25,000, or even $55,000, that will make a big difference in your life, specifically your parents, since a lot of parents don't have the money.
Right. Yeah. Any scholarship can help. There are some scholarships out there that are only maybe $500 or $1,000. Don't overlook those because it all helps. It all adds up.
Yeah.
Right? There's no rule that says you can only be awarded one scholarship. Right? You can get a lot of different scholarships.
Awesome.
If we go to the next slide, I have a few more tips that I'd like to share, and I know we're towards the end of our time together, so let's go through these a little more quickly. The first tip is taking advantage of employer scholarships. So there's a lot of employers out there that will offer scholarships to a child of an employee, or sometimes the employee themselves. So there's companies like Taco Bell, right? It's not uncommon for a high school student to get a job at Taco Bell, or Target is another company that provides some funding for their employees. Chick-fil-A is one. There's a lot of different companies that offer some type of scholarship or what they might call tuition reimbursement. And tuition reimbursement just means you've got to come up with the first semester yourself, but then once you get your grades back, assuming they meet a minimum GPA, then you can get reimbursed that money. And so, if you have your first semester or two paid for, then you use that reimbursement fund and you get your money back from your company if your company offers that kind of thing. So
What a
sometimes
great
it's
way
worth-
to work for company who do that.
Yes, yeah. So those are great ones. There's a lot of talent and non-traditional scholarships out there. We already talked about music, but any kind of performance, dancing, acting, things like that, and all sorts of other extracurricular activities, even if you don't get involved in performing arts.
Yeah. I remember there was one time, and I believe they still have at the company is called Peterson.com. We have used them for finding scholarships since 2006. And there are scholarships there for single mothers. There are scholarships there for working mothers, which surprises me that they're there. And if we don't know about them, we're missing out.
Yes. All sorts of scholarships like that. And one thing that's really unique right now, too, is in today's college environment, there are actually more females going to college than there are males. And so we're starting to see some different types of incentive programs to get more males into college. So while there are a lot of scholarships for single mothers or working mothers or female athletes or whatever that are targeting females, we're seeing more that are targeting the men also. So that's good. Another tip that came from this article, this is an article from U.S. News, is they talked about leaning on a mentor. So find maybe if you do some kind of a job shadow while you're in high school, if you know a career path that you're interested in pursuing and you go do a job shadow or some type of an internship in high school, and make some connections with professionals in the field that you're interested in. Stay in touch with those people, and they can often help you in your scholarship search. If for no other reason, they can give you a letter of recommendation, because many scholarships will ask for letter of recommendation. So that's a good reason to connect with a mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may share something in there, Dr. Halaki, if that's okay with you. So we have an intern position, and I copy the job description and put it on the Do Words Facebook in order to draw out some applicants. Nobody even applied, and one person applied, and interestingly, he did so well as an intern. He just graduated from UVU. We turned around and hired him full-time and started him $35,000 as a start with very less experience other than the one that we have, just offer him. So we offered 2 more interns, and we're able to get another student from Utah Valley University, and one we get from I believe the University of Santa Barbara in California. So we have those interns. They wanted to get more into the dietary supplement and started them at $17 an hour. So I think our people sometimes are a little bit nervous, or not a lot of them in science or science related. But they need to have, we were looking for kids who are already in college, and you are in a junior or a senior graduating next year. And we just wanted basic research, know how to do research about medicinal plants, and also research overall. So I think sometimes we miss out a specific islanders.
We talked last time about internships and the opportunities that can come through those internships. So that's definitely a good way to get some funding and lead to a job. On the next slide, there's some additional tips that just come from me. So, they're Halaki's tips. The first one is apply every year. So every year you can qualify for other scholarships. Some scholarships require a student to be a junior or a senior in college before they can be awarded. So always, every year, look for opportunities to apply for scholarships. To start with, you want to find the right time of year to do that. And what I would suggest to high school students is to connect with their high school counselor. They're always tuned in to what those deadlines are. And I would start probably the beginning of your junior year. Start those conversations and start applying for scholarships. Junior year in high school. And then apply every year until you're finished with college. We have in our department at Kansas State University, our department actually offers more scholarships than most of the departments on the university. And many of those scholarships go to students who only have one semester left in college. So it's never too late to apply for scholarships. And the next tip I have here is the FAFSA form. It's the federal aid. Let's see, I always forget what it is.
Free application.
Free application for federal student aid.
Yeah.
And that's required. It's a little bit of a complicated form if you're unfamiliar with it. But once again, high school counselors can help with that. Or they can help you find someone that can help with that. And also universities have scholarship offices or financial aid offices, and the people in those university offices can help with that form as well.
Okay, good one.
My next tip is read the instructions. There's never anything worse than spending all this time filling out an application or possibly writing an essay or doing all of the other things only to find out that you don't meet the requirements. One of the things about scholarships is that, especially ones that are coming from private donors, they get to determine what the guidelines are for those scholarships. And so if they only want to give scholarships to minority females who were born on a Saturday, they can do that because it's their money that they're giving away. They can make up the guidelines however they want to. So start by reading the instructions and make sure that you meet the qualifications for the scholarship before you put all the time into filling out the application. The next tip that I have is low-hanging fruit can be a blessing. So this is referring to scholarships that are maybe small dollar amounts. But you can go out and get a lot of those different scholarships. I had a roommate when I was in college who, when he was in high school, he would draw cartoons for the newspaper. And he was able to get a scholarship to go to college based on his cartoon drawing. I don't know how big of a scholarship it was, but it was something that was easy for him to do, and so he won that scholarship. And that scholarship actually took him to BYU. He was not a member of the LDS Church when he went to BYU, and but he chose to go to BYU with the scholarship money that he was awarded, and later joined the church and served a mission, and has done great things in the church. So you never know where scholarships will take you. So.
Good point.
And then my last two tips are pay attention to deadlines. They'll have, every scholarship will have a deadline. Make sure you meet that deadline. It's always a good idea to submit it early. Don't wait until the last day that it's due. And then the last thing that I want to make a note of is scholarships are always free. So they're free to apply for, and they're free to be awarded. So I mention this because there's a lot of scams out there. And there are some people that will say, you've won this scholarship, but you have to pay $50 to receive it. Or here's a scholarship you can apply for a small fee, for an application fee. If you see scholarships like that, then those are scams. You want to make sure that you're always free, anything to do with scholarships. No application fees, no other fees associated with them. And then
All right.
in the last time that we have, the last slide here points out some websites where you can find a list of scholarships. Scholarship Finder is a good one. Scholarships.com is a very common one. And the other thing is each state has scholarships locally that are unique to that state. So I put some links for scholarships in Utah and scholarships in California, because I know we have a lot of listeners in those two areas. But no matter what state you are living in, you can find a list of scholarships that are local, and you can find some great opportunities there. And you can find awards typically anywhere from $500 up to the dollar amounts that you were talking about, $45,000, $55,000. There's some scholarships out there that are pretty good sized.
Awesome.
So that's my information on scholarships, and I hope we see more Tongans and more Polynesians going out and searching for scholarship opportunities to relieve some of that financial burden of paying for college. It's a very expensive adventure, but well worth it. And if you can find a way to get some aid for that, and I encourage you to do that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Halaki. Appreciate the information you shared, but I think our time is up. And we'll talk to you tomorrow about that fundraising thing and find out more about that, and get to talk to you next month as well. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Malo Alpito.
Yep. Malo of Hatwe. Yep. Ho eki mo e haamatapule, whewhi au pito I he ngahi wahe ko toa pē ko whai atu I he whiawhi whakakoloa koe ni, ka koe tau wa umeni ki he wha o singa o e polo karama. O atu e wha malo kia teki mo tolu mo tu taimi ka mo mea mai ki he paenga o he wā ke tari whalau. I he televisione ata pia mo e reo malo e poupou pia mo e tokoni ki nai polo kalama ni vahe I he whiawhi whakakoloa koe ni. I he osi goia e polo kalama koe ni whawhi ati ki mo tolu ke mo mea atu ki he main station koia e paenga I wake tari whau ki San Francisco, California. Ia ia santo lau makaheri, emeri tofu makaheri moani I ke te nau whaihanga I polo kalama maki mo tolu. Pea kahiri ai polo kalama ko ia, ka pau mo kei a I ngai whaitu ke he. Whawhi ki mo tolu ki mo me atu ki he polo kalama e substation ko ia I Honolulu, Hawaii. Whahau ko e siwakiri wai moani ke he ngai polo kalama maki mo tolu. Te ewa na ngalo, ma veni mai pe ai taimu, kahiri ai polo kalama ko ia I Hawaii. Pea alaku lewa ai polo kalama ki he station ko ia I Nuku'alofa Tonga. Pea kahiri ai polo kalama me Nuku'alofa Tonga Koe lava ia hoa e ua wha ai whai polokalama e paenga ai wā ke tari whalau ma au mō whamiri ka mafo ke ngai whunga waka o mō me ai. Honga apito ka teki mautolo mō whahoko whatongia me paenga ai wā ke tari whalau ko mō poupou share e tau polokalama ka mafo ke ngahi takoni kotoa pio mō whai ki he paenga ai wā ke tari whalau. Ka koe lawa ia e polokalama o e whiawhini, whamalo ia mō mea mai, ka mō mea